back and relax while I listen to Train Kickers podcast. I'm Dave, and along with my co-hosts Dan and Steve, we're going to take all around the world of miniature wargaming. On tonight's episode, we're going to be going over the 15th Legion for Horus Heresy, the Thousand Suns. Just as we've done before, we're going to go over all aspects of them, though we are going to be saving Primarchs for a later episode when we go through all of them in some way. And the Rites of War is going to be a separate episode that's going to release about a day or so after this one. And now, on to the show. All right, and we are back at it tonight, going through the next Legion for Horus Heresy. So we're on to the 15th Legion. This time we're going to be going through the Thousand Suns. Just as we've done for all the others, we are going to discuss everything about it, although we are skipping Primarchs. We're going to do all of those once this long effort is done, and the Rites of War will be a separate video, although probably pretty short. The Rites of War are reasonably simple, but we'll see as we get to those. And just as we've done up till this point, we're going to start with the fluff. And Dan has volunteered himself as tribute to talk a little about it. Let's see if you can anger less people than you did for Space Wolves.
Listen, Space Wolves, I didn't anger anyone. They were just...
You don't read the comments then.
So, what was it? So, Thousand Suns really interesting, actually. I know I kind of talked about, I can't remember the Legion I said was really tragic. It was a recent one too, but these guys are also kind of high up on the tragedy level. Thousand Suns basically are pretty much the psychic marines of the Horus Heresy. However, before the Horus Heresy even began, they were basically forbidden from using powers from the Edict of Nicaea, because essentially the Emperor, who stupidly denied that demons existed and the war doesn't exist, also told them to stop practicing psychic powers and shit. And so Magnus and the Thousand Suns, essentially suitably chastised, basically went back to their home world. This is where the kind of tragedy comes in, and this is where you get the whole meme of, Magnus did nothing wrong. Magnus basically figured out that Horus was going to basically betray the Emperor, and... Well, he did.
Yeah, he absolutely betrayed
the Emperor. He tried to stop him.
Yeah.
And then he's like, that fucking worm Erebus.
Yeah, so...
spoilers for book...
Oh, yeah, sorry. Well, I mean...
Book 2 of the Horus Heresy that came out 15 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, spoilers for if you haven't read the Horus Heresy. If I remember correctly... No. Yeah, so he essentially... he figured out that Horus was posing a threat to the Emperor Mankind. He was going to create a Horus Heresy. And so Magnus essentially does one of the... again, in my opinion, not stupid. Other people think he did wrong. He ripped a hole, essentially, in the warp... underneath Terra, because he was trying to break his way in. He wasn't figuring out why he wasn't able to break in and warn the Emperor. Now, side note, the reason this happened, as a Custodes player, I can explain. The reason this was happening is that the Emperor basically had a webway, an Eldar webway underneath Terra, and he was repairing it so that way humanity could basically use this webway so they didn't have to use the warp. And he also had the Golden Throne there with a bunch of psychic wards. Magnus basically was a bull in a china shop and ripped the fucking... he basically ripped a wart hole in the center of Terra, underneath the Himalayan mountains. The Emperor was not pleased. That's the kind. Emperor was not pleased, and so he sent the Space Wolves and then a Custodes Talons and the Sisters of Silence to basically censure Magnus. And this is where it kind of really gets tragic. Because Horus, who has not really, he's already betrayed the Emperor, but no one really knows that yet, intercepted the Space Wolves and essentially told the Space Wolves that the Emperor changed his mind. They didn't want to censure Magnus. They wanted to essentially, bring him in, rough him up, kill the Thousand Suns, bring him in.
Bring him in cold.
Yeah. And so probably one of the saddest battles of the heresy was the Battle of Prospero, where the Space Wolves, who listened to Horus at the time. I wonder, side note, if anyone wants to answer this in the YouTube comments, I wonder if Russ ever, took that to heart. Because I know Russ has a big thing against Magnus and chasing them down in the warp. That's where he has been in the 40K fluff. But I wonder if Russ ever realized that, he was tricked by Horus. I wonder if that's ever, brought up.
He cared.
He knew.
Huh. Okay.
He was upset about it. That's why, if I understand correctly, and I could totally be wrong, that's why he kind of holds back a little bit when it comes to killing Horus, because it's like, oh god, what if this is also a mistake?
Interesting. Okay. So yeah, the Battle of Prospero. Prospero is completely set ablaze. And this also throws kind of the Edict of Nicaea out the goddamn window because even though the Sisters of Silence were pretty great against managing the Psychers, sometimes the best way to fight a fire is with fire. Um, and so yeah, Magnus essentially suitably now it's weird. Like I almost think like one of these again. It's kind of like these weird things like with Angron. I know we had this conversation with Angron, where it's like they were condemned as traitors, but like I know many of the Thousand Sons were loyal to the Emperor, right? Including we were talking about this before the podcast. That one of the first Grey Knights was a Thousand Son that was hired, not hired, but was scouted by Malkador the Sigillite. Um, I wonder what would have happened had Horus not been able to intercept, Russ and tell him. It's just very interesting. Like this is one of those moments in like the Horus Heresy that I kind of like to look at as like, man, this could have gone very different. Anyway,
Well,
that's basically the
it went
fluff.
the
That's
way it
basically
went
they are.
because you need to split it equally is really what it is. They didn't so much go
Exactly.
with
Yeah.
Horus. They more of disobeyed the emperor because they were still dabbling in the warp, and in particular, in order to stop the flesh changing happening to his legion, Magnus made a deal with it. I was actually reading a thing before where they go through and they point out in all the various books and where the fluff has changed and where they've retconned things and all of that. In most of the
Oh,
books,
interesting.
they don't actually mention exactly what his deal was or with whom, but he makes a deal and he figures out later that where he thought he was, you know, smart enough to make sure nothing bad would happen, no, it absolutely happened. And
Yeah,
that's sort of where he doomed his legion in trying to save them.
man. When we hit the Raven Guard, by the way, it's a very less warp, but more. Their legion was doomed as well. That's gonna be another interesting fluff point. But yeah, no, that these guys are, at least in my opinion, top three probably more tragic legions, more or really cool legion, but seriously, like, wow, this sucks. But if you want to play Loyalist Thousand Sons, completely fluff capable. Like again, the one of the first Grey Knights was a Thousand Son, so
Yeah. And in
completely capable of
particular,
playing Loyalist.
they get their name from the fact of, like I said, their legion came from what was believed to be essentially like the most pure of stock and all this sort of stuff from the bloodlines and all of that, and fine for about a decade, and then they start showing psychic powers essentially. And then they started undergoing this flesh change and turning almost into abominations and all these sort of horrors. They started with tens of thousands, and by the time Magnus showed up and saved them, quote unquote, saved them, there was only 1,000 left. Therefore, the 1,000 sons. Very poetic.
Yeah, it's really, they're one of the better, in my opinion, one of the cooler written legions, fluff wise at least.
Yeah. Was it Burning Up Prosper? That was a good book. That one was one of the ones I actually remember a good amount. But all right, so we will get on to their trait and reaction. Steve, do you have a preference of trait or reaction?
I'll take the trait.
Do it.
So, shockingly, the Thousand Sons, Legion full of Psychers. Yeah. Fun fact: they're Psychers. So, all infantry and cavalry in the army that aren't artillery or automated artillery. So, the crew is, but the gun isn't. Um, they all gain the Psyker subtype. You don't get to take any disciplines, but you do count as one. So, for example, if someone had like preferred enemy psychers, they'd get it against you. In addition, all models with infantry or cavalry type and the character unit subtype must select a minor arcana option, which is basically to put it in D&D or Pathfinder terms, it's your cantrips.
Mm-hmm.
So they get to take little spells from their own special little list. If they don't already have one more psychic disciplines, and if they don't have psychic disciplines, for an extra 15 points, they could be like, yeah, I'm a psyker and I can make a discipline now.
As long as they're an independent
So
character.
everyone's a librarian. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It is pretty.
I haven't gone through their minor arcana yet too much. I've glanced through them and all, but everything being able to be a psyker is and have at least some sort of ability is nice, because I know at least one of them lets you call the first wound you do, and they're all minor things, but they're nice to have.
Oh yeah.
Not sure there's too much of a downside. There's some stuff that's good against psychers, and if someone takes all of that, fine. But I don't know if you're gonna be running
There's
that
an
much.
entire faction that specializes in killing psychers. They're
That
not
is true.
out yet, but when they are out, it's going to cause a lot of pain.
Yeah.
For about, if all things being equal, about 5% of leech.
Yeah. Oh, 5%. You mean 5% of people playing Thousand Suns, or 5% playing Sisters?
Well, no, 5% of Marine players.
Oh.
If it's all equally distributed, which it obviously isn't.
No.
Yeah. If you're 1,000 Suns, you're gonna be sad when Sisters of Silence come knocking on your door.
So I think what we'll do then, because to really reference this, I think we probably have to talk about the psychics. Maybe we'll do the reaction real quick, but then maybe we'll go to psychics, because saying that you get these abilities is kind of meaningless until you actually know what those abilities are. So, but reaction is the page after, so we might as well do reaction. But then maybe we'll go to that before we do like Warlord traits and all, in case they reference it or deal with it at all. It might give us a better picture of what you really are. So we'll go through the reaction. Has the same sort of rules, although this one also mentions that you have to be Thousand Suns and the Psyker subtype. That won't be a problem for them, but there could potentially be certain units that they have that maybe don't fit this. So like your artillery cannot use this kind of thing. And here's the reason why. It's Fortress of the Mind. So it's made once per battle, of course, as always, in the opponent player's shooting phase. When an enemy unit declares a shooting attack targeting a unit that you have, made up entirely of models that are Thousand Suns and are a Psyker. So it's once they target you. Once they've resolved all the hit into wound rolls, but before you make armor saves, the active player must make a psychic check. So if you're using this after they've hit and wounded you, but before you try to save anything, you make a psychic check. If it's passed, you get a 3-up invul save against all the wounds as from that shooting attack. If it's failed, you get a 5-up invul, and both the attacking unit and the reacting unit get Perils of the Warp. So you actually hit both sides with this, and you remove the casualties immediately before resolving the unsaved wounds inflicted by the shooting attack that triggered that reaction. So someone's going to shoot you. You can decide to give yourself an invul save, assuming you don't have one. You make a psychic test, you get a 3-up. You fail it, it's a 5-up, and you and who shot you is going to take a Perils. And your models will die immediately. Then you get your invul save. Don't get me wrong. It is very, very good. And a 3-up invul is very nice. I'm always cautioned when your ability is going to require a check, and there's a chance you get injured or something bad from it. You at least still get the 5-up either way. But like the units you would think to use this on, I mean, a lot of them might have invul saves already. Your Terminators, maybe they get to be one better. You might not want it on standard Marines, because if there's not a character in there, your leadership, you might be kind of worried at sitting at an 8. I rolled enough psychic checks. Thousand Suns were one of the factions I was looking at, because I really do like them. I'm glad I didn't pick them with the way I've been rolling psychic checks lately. And I'm rolling them on 9s.
I've been there.
So like on an 8, get a 5-up and maybe lose a couple guys. Yeah, I do a couple damage a couple guys on the other side, maybe lose a couple. I do like it overall. I don't, even though it's a 3-up.
You know what's really funny?
What's that?
You know what's really funny? If you fail the check,
yeah,
you both take Perils of the Warp.
Yeah, you both get injured.
So even when you lose, there's kind of an upside to it. Like if something shoots you that is gonna be a pain in the ass to hurt in the first place, like say like a Leviathan shoots you, right? Your bolters really can't do much against it, and it's gonna shred your squad. But either you could get that 3-up invul to, stay on the objective, for example, right? Just hold your ground. And if you don't get the 3-up invul, at least you get a 5-up invul, and you're doing D3 automatic wounds to the Leviathan. So, like, even when it doesn't work, it does something.
That's a sort of case where you almost want to fail. Because if you're
Yeah,
shooting
exactly.
my whatever unit you care about all your units, but if they're like shooting your attack squad or something like that, I really don't care what happens to them. I'm going to lose models and units one way or the other. So there, I actually kind of hope it's still like night fighting. I hope I fail it. And now at least I've done some wounds to you, and maybe a guy or two of mine live after the end, after your shots with this invul save.
I wouldn't use this on Terminators, generally, because they already have the invul.
Mm.
So if you get the lesser tier, you're just doing D3 wounds, which is nothing to talk about, really.
No.
But on a unit that doesn't have a built-in invul, like a veteran squad, for example, I could see this being tasty.
On vets, yes. When I think of, at least from my perspective, the sorts of units that a lot of people are on.
And don't forget, you can take invuls against Perils of the Warp, right?
Yeah, so you would.
And now you have a 5-up at least, so you could try. Is it good odds? No, but you could try.
Yeah, that is true, actually. Yeah, you would at least have it then, because it doesn't say you perils and then gave the invul. You gain the invul and you take this peril. So you would have it at least. I'm just thinking of like essentially your standard sort of line probably doesn't care about this so much. Your very heavy units probably don't benefit as much. It's probably the things in between. Yeah, if you're taking veterans, I could see it on Tartaros style Terminators if you're trying to make sure they don't get doubled out by Spartan firing hitting with 4 last cannon shots or something like that, because the 3-up's a lot better than the 5. You won't get the wound, some of the extra parts, but so be it. It's good. I just don't like that you have to do a check, and if not, you might get you potentially could take more injuries than you dish out.
So okay, and this is because we've done so many of these reviews so far.
Yep.
I find that those advanced reactions that are not as powerful. So I've lumped them into kind of 3 categories. So advanced reactions that are really not powerful at all, but they do affect, like they got cool effects, but they're not powerful. Dark Angels, for example. Yep. You have these advanced reactions which can hurt you, right? We haven't gotten to salamanders yet, obviously, but you have like this one, for example, that can hurt you. Does have a powerful ability, but can hurt you. And then you have the really, really good, like, advanced reactions. And what I found so far is that those armies that have, like, really, really good units tend to reflect on the advanced reaction. So, like, if you have excellent, excellent, excellent units, your advanced reaction isn't really going to be like, oh my God, you're going to feel no pain and then charge right after. Without looking at the Thousand Sun units, I'm going to guess that with this advanced reaction, which I feel is good, it sucks that you can fail it and get hurt and get a 5-up, but I'm gonna say that because probably the Thousand Suns units are really good, that's why this is in place.
Yeah,
I
fully believe it can be good. I just think it's all advanced reactions are situational. This one to me feels a little bit extra situational, because there is a chance it does something to you as well without giving you quite as good of effect. That's my only sort of thing with it, but it's not bad.
Now, mind you, you might have also perception bias because you've rolled how many?
Honestly, I've passed a lot more than I failed. It's just recently I have.
Oh,
but
okay.
Still, at the end of the day, it is something where make this test that is leadership based. So if it's in the first 2 turns, if there's night fighting, you're getting affected by it. Maybe someone else has other rules that you're getting affected by. You're making a test on a number that might not be as high as you'd like on some of these units, and there is a detriment should you fail it. There's an upside too as well. Of course, you get a 5-up, and maybe you roll D3, you get a 1, you save it anyway. And the other unit, maybe they take 3. So it could go well. But I don't like when it's, hey, here's my one-time thing. Oh, I failed it. Oh, I rolled a 3. I didn't save any of those. Like, it didn't do me that much, and I lost a bunch of guys. That's all I'm saying. I don't think it's bad. Maybe when it's all said and done, we'll rank these a bit more. especially once we've seen the rest of the factions. I think it would make sense, before we do Warlord traits and all of that, to talk about some of these powers so we know what kind of things your Warlord might be coming in with. Because we know your Warlord can also then take any discipline if he wants to upgrade himself if he doesn't have it.
No, I agree.
There are 5 of these. Does anyone have a favorite?
I'll take Raptora because that sounds like the Sisters of Silence.
All right, go for it. It's
I
the
wonder if
first one.
Same. Yeah. So, when a unit includes a Psyker with this power, is selected to make a move or a run move during the controlling player's movement phase that ends within 12 inches of an enemy unit. The controlling player may make a psychic check for the Psyker with this power before any models in the unit are moved. If the psychic check is successful, then all models in the unit with the Psyker subtype in the Legion of Stardust Thousand Sun special rule gain a 6-up invulnerable save, or if the unit already has an invulnerable save, that save is increased by 1 step. So 6-up to 5-up to a maximum of 4-up invulnerable save until the start of the controlling player's next turn. And if it's failed, obviously you suffer perils of the war. All right, that's...
Do you know your Thousand Suns cults?
Do I know? No, I do not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Raptora is the telekinesis cult.
Got it.
So what
Okay.
they're doing here is they're basically making like force domes to protect themselves.
Got it.
Like there's like minor domes, like that's like it's the shield spell from D&D, right? It's like I'm being shot. Here's a shield. Made out of magic.
Yeah.
Plus 1 invul is great. That 6-up is on tacticals, meh. But like if you have Tartaros, if you have Tartar Sauce, I love that. If you have Tartaros Terminators, going to a 4-up invulnerable save from a 5-up is sweet because you still retain your movement, your ability to move. You still retain everything that a Tartaros has over Cataphracti, but now you have a 4-up invulnerable. I like it.
Another thing to note. Sorry, before we get too far into this,
No,
you
right.
only get to join one of these cults if your squad has a character in it.
Yep.
Some units do not have character models. So
like
that's
when you say
something
character,
to
you
make
like a
a
sergeant,
note.
though. Like
Yes,
sergeant.
but
Some units
okay.
don't have one. Like command squads don't have one.
No.
Got it. Okay, now I'm getting. Now I'm
Yeah, you have to have a character. There's not a guarantee you do.
So that's a very important thing to note.
Got it. All right, so I like this one.
+1 invul. It's a classic. Everyone took this last edition because,
and you still get a 6-up.
Yes,
you don't have one.
Yeah, exactly. It's great.
Good.
It's solid on breachers, for example. It's actually really good on breachers.
Breachers have a what? 6-up invulnerable?
They have a 5-up now.
That's not bad. Oh my god, 4.
So now they're a 4-up. Yeah.
Oh, it's great.
The other quick thing to mention that they mentioned in the rules thing is if your unit has more than one model that's a character unit subtype, they all have to have the same of these Arcana.
Oh, you can't
you cannot mix and match these.
Good.
Yeah, it's in the rules above. So there's no mixing and matching.
Good. All right. Who wants to take Pyre?
Can you guess what cult that is?
What do you guess? Pyrokinesis. I don't know here.
Oh yeah. I'll take them real fast. So, essentially, when they charge, do psychic check, and they gain Hammer of Wrath.
Hammer of Wrath 2.
Hammer of Wrath 2 specifically. And these count as flame attacks, so salamanders get to laugh and point. But yeah, they basically they cover themselves in a bunch of fire and they just sprint at you screaming and headbutt you aggressively. It's not great. It's really cool conceptually, but it's not great.
No.
I mean, I guess if you really have issues dealing with like guardsman blobs, you could take this on your assault units, but it's not something you would ever be like, yes. Game wise, this is what I want to run.
Yeah, maybe it'll get better when we see the other ones. There might be good units for it, but agreed. All right, so Pavoni, which one were they? I read all of this before, but I was half watching a show as well.
Pavoni is Biomancer.
That's it. Yes. For anyone who's not familiar with this, essentially they used to study everything. Then when Magnus comes in, he stops their flesh changing and he tells them like, no, you guys got to focus. We're going to take what are you best at? That is now the school you are in, and that is what you are going to practice, focus on. That is what you do now. So Pavoni, when a unit that includes a Psyker with this power is selected to make a move or a run during the controlling player's movement phase, you can make a psychic check before anyone is moved. If it's successful, then all models In the moving unit with the Psyker subtype and the Astartes, who are Thousand Sun special rule, add a bonus of 3 inches to distance moved and make nor any penalties through movement for moving through difficult terrain during the movement phase only. So it won't help you with charges or anything else like that. If it's failed, take a perils. I love this on things like your Cataphracti Terminators who can't run, because it does work on move. And now they're actually getting to move an extra 3 inches. So now you get to move 9 inches a turn when you pass it.
9 Cataphracti are
Yes.
fucking terrifying.
I would say heavier units like that, anything that isn't allowed to run, this is amazing on. Anything else, some of these others might be a bit better. I mean, if you don't have an invul save, getting a 6 up, maybe you don't think it's quite as useful. If you're not going to be charging in, maybe you don't want to light yourself on fire. But extra move is very big, especially on units that go slow.
Now, something to note is it's +3 to the distance moved, not +3 to your movement. So this will not give you bonuses in the assault.
Yeah, this is purely a movement phase thing.
I was going to say that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Nothing else special on that. All right.
+3 is still good.
It's still good.
It's still amazing, but it is written to mean you get a little bit further movement phase. It doesn't help you in any other way. But it does actually, as it says, in the movement phase, you can ignore reductions from things like difficult terrain. So if you were stuck somewhere, the extra 3 inches and not being slowed could absolutely get you out of it to position you better for later. All right, Dan, why don't you take the Corvidae, who can see the future and the past.
Oh,
yeah, that's the idea.
Oh, the eagle. Yeah. So when a unit includes a psyker with this power, okay. So when this unit makes a shooting attack, the controlling player may make a psychic check for the psyker with this power before any rolls to hit are made. So this is before you roll to hit. If the check is successful, then the first wound scored on the target unit by the shooting attack is allocated by the psyker's controlling player. But once this model has been wounded as a casualty, any further wounds are allocated as per normal rolls. Okay. If the check is failed, then you suffer perils of the warp. Oh, okay.
This is hilarious on heavy support squads with blast cannon.
This. Hell yeah. This is great. So the reason I'm smiling, I don't have a video on, but the reason you could probably hear me smiling in here is one of the big things I love with Mechanicum is taking a Thanatar with Paragon of Metal, so he has a 4+ precision shot, and he's got like so it's bad, but he's got a strength 10 AP1 shot that he can precision fire at a 4+ with 3 shots. And I'm like, okay, you maybe might be able to pick out something really good. Throw this on the last cannon squad. Does it have to hit on? Hold on, let me just check.
It's the first wound.
First wound.
Yeah, you're not allocating the hit. You're actually allocating the first actual wound.
Yeah, good. Wound. Yeah, no, I love this. This is great, bro. Just shoot a last cannon like a Praetor, and have him not make his 4+ invulnerable, and then you just go boop, dead. You know what's? Oh, side note, why this is also really cool. Give me a second. This ignores the Magos ability to hide in Cybernetica. I had it open on my phone when I read. So Magos, when you take a Cybernetica Magos, you can ignore sniper rules, which is really good because you can't be sniped out. This just goes, I don't give a shit.
Are you sure about that? What does it say specifically?
I'll pull it back up again. I looked at it, read it, and then I deleted it. But
some of us don't order our ebooks overseas.
Well, look, preservation protocols. A model with the special rule gains the patch of cybernetic, blah, 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 blah. Okay. When it joins automata unit types, any wounds which would be allocated to the character, any wounds which would be allocated to the character, even those caused with precision strike or sniper special rule, may instead be allocated to a model with the automatic unit type first.
That rule takes precedence, not Corvidae.
It's the same thing you would get in your command squads. Yeah, that's the one time essentially you don't get to do it. Because
got it. Okay, so I was going to say,
but think about it. What you're talking about is a unit that is essentially the command squad of your army in that particular setup.
Got it. Okay. I was like, oh, that's spicy.
The one fringe case that doesn't work in your army, which doesn't yet have a book.
Yeah, the one fringe case in an army that I don't want to play because I have a new army for Mechanicum. Yeah, no. But no, still spicy. I would love to see a 5-man las cannon squad. Just Snipe on a Praetor. You can snipe on a pot. Not even a Praetor. That's just big boy. They can shoot apothecaries and tactical squads.
Yeah.
They can't do anything. What are they going to
Yeah.
do? Take a feel no pain? They can.
Yeah. There's well, yeah, on that they wouldn't maybe take the shroud or something like that. It is useful if it's a long range shooting unit. Not a bad option. Absolutely. Steve, do you want to take the last one? Because I don't want to even attempt to pronounce it, so I'm gonna make you do it.
Sure.
Athenian.
Sure.
Yeah, Athenian. So the Athenian cult is essentially the telepathy cult. So when you're with a psyker makes a shooting attack, the controlling player may make a psychic check for the psych before any hit rolls are made or reaction is declared. If the check is successful, then the enemy unit targeted must reduce the leadership characteristic of all models by 1 for any pitting check or morale check caused by the shooting attack. And if you fail, you suffer perils of the warp as per usual. So essentially, it's an extra level of shell shock,
Yeah.
which is hilarious on rotor cannon.
Murder cannons.
I don't know. A strength 3 weapon, I'm not
like
as
a-
concerned about, but being pinned is what they're good
feel
for.
like
But it's
I haven't
already
looked-
shell shock 1, so now it's -2 leadership.
Oh, I haven't
And if you had
looked at units
Corvidae
yet.
guys pick out the sergeant, it's effectively -3 leadership.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. All they have to do is force 1 save through.
I'm almost certain these guys have some sort of shell shock. I can't remember. I'm not gonna say anything yet because I haven't looked at the units. But I feel like I remember them having shell shock bullshit. But whatever.
They actually use rotor cannons because last edition they could do cool stuff with it. Not so much this edition, but last edition they had a lot of cool stuff they did with it.
Oh, it's still good. It's still a nice little flavor for it. No, these are great. I love them.
Yeah.
Jesus.
I think that the big thing is for certain of your squads is that because if you fail, you take a perils of the warp, so you could be putting wounds on yourself. So some of the units, like I said, Cataphracti, I think Pavoni further move great, and you know what, my leadership, and plus I have invul saves. If I fail it, not the end of the world. I can probably save some of those wounds. Some of your units, I would be potentially concerned about you. Like you talk about Corvidae. All right, so my last cannon squad. Yeah, but if it's early in the match and say it's Night Fighter or anything else like that, if I miss that, I am now down last cannons because I don't have an invul save most likely in that unit, so I'm going to lose a couple guys.
Is it minimum 5 or minimum
5
10 on heavy sport?
Yeah, start at 5. Minimum 10, max of 10. Yeah, max
Maximum
10.
10. Yeah, sorry.
I think they're good. I would just say you want to be a little careful of how often you're trying to get some of your powers off, especially depending on timing in the game and all, because you could absolutely be killing your own models early in the game through this. Like I said, later maybe it's and do it if it's going to be helpful, but I think you absolutely want to be careful because there's a chance you actually do a lot of damage to yourself trying to give your guys various powers. I think maybe that's the balance that you need to strike in this Legion when you're looking at it, is to figure out when do you actually need something and when are you trying something where it's not really going to do you much good. All right. That gives us a good viewpoint as we either look through Warlord traits or any of these units as we get to them. So there are 3 Warlord traits. Since Steve is the resident trader, why don't you tell us about the Evoker of Pain? It's got a nice name, at least.
Oh yeah. So it's as mentioned, Evoker of Pain is for traders only. In a Warlord, this trait fails a psychic check and suffers peril of the warp. Neither the Warlord nor the models in its unit suffer any wounds. Instead, an enemy unit within 6 inches or locked in combat with the Warlord's unit takes the D3 with no invulnerable saves, only invulnerable saves and no damage mitigation. If there's no within 6 inches, then it goes against the Warlord's unit. They do not count towards winning close combat. They don't cause morale checks or pinning checks, and you get extra assault phase reaction. So you're saying, oh, well, what if I fail my psychic check? Imagine failing your psychic check on the advanced reaction with your Warlord when you're right next to them. Here, take 2d3 mortal wound. I love it. This is fantastic. It's I'm bad at magic, and it's your problem.
It is very nice. The only thing that, not necessarily a downside, but the only thing with it potentially is, your army is probably led by a praetor. It doesn't have to be, but let's say it is. The dude's leadership 10. You're probably okay. This will be nice if it happens, but I need to be close, and I need to fail a 9 or a 10 on 2d6, depending on if there's a little bit of more leadership reduction. So I do think it's very cool, but I think it's only going to come into play very seldom. Would be my only thought. All right. Dan, do you care which one of the other two that you do? Does one of the names look better to you?
I could do either Magister or I can do
Well,
Eidolon
luckily
of
those are the only
What
two
the
left.
fuck?
I will do the next one. You can do Eidolon.
Yeah, exactly. I'll
That's
do either
fine.
or. I don't care.
Magister or Prospero, because this one's nice and short. If your Warlord has this trait, then any models that are Thousand Suns special rule that in a unit it joins that makes a psychic check, as well as using the Force or Psychic Focus special rules, may roll an additional die and discard the highest die roll before determining the results of the check. In addition, an army whose Warlord has this trait, you get an extra reaction in the movement phase. This one is exceedingly good because keep in mind, when you're a Psyker, you don't take leadership off of the unit, you take leadership yourself. Now, if in them a unit can be, your character who, has the better one, but like if you have someone in there at leadership 10 and a normal librarian, say at leadership 9, he tests himself. He doesn't test unit. So this one I like a lot because it can help guarantee that you get it. And is this card the highest? That was one thing I was checking is could you choose? Because there is sometimes you might want to fail. Especially like I said, if you're using your advanced reaction, theoretically. But I like this one a little more than the other one because the other one I shouldn't fail much, but it could, go against you if I do fail. This one means I better be super unlucky to actually fail. And if I join a unit of someone who doesn't have a great leadership, who maybe is sitting on an 8 because my guy's sitting with my long range squad, they're much less likely to start getting models killed. If there's no other thoughts on that one, you can talk about what happens when someone loses essentially their ability to be psychic.
All right, Eidolon of Suffering. This Warlord may not use psychic powers or psychic weapons and gains the...
Yeah.
What the... I just wanted to read the fluff real quick. What the hell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not everyone
That's
is a psyker in the Legion. Some people, it doesn't work, something goes wrong, and they're given a way to get out and get an honorable death. But yeah, not everyone is actually a psyker in the Legion. Just only the people they like are.
Yeah, this is actually pretty cool. It's actually... So, a warlord with this trait, may not use psychic powers or psychic weapons and gains adamantine will 3+. When another model, friendly or enemy, makes a psychic check, friendly enemy makes a psychic check within 12 inches of the warlord, the controlling player must roll a d6. On a score of 1, there is no effect. On a score of 2 or higher, the warlord gains the Rage 2 special rule for the remainder of the battle. If the trait would grant the Warlord the Rage 2 special rule further time, that it is instead increased the Rage value special rule by +1 from Rage 2 to Rage 3 and so on, up to a maximum of Rage 4. Holy crap. And in addition, you get an additional reaction in the shooting phase. Yikes. Okay.
No, you still get your minor arcana.
Oh my god.
Right?
No.
Because it's not a psychic power.
Hold on. I gotta scroll down.
Or is it? They do psychic checks.
It's a psychic check, it's a psychic power.
But it's his unit could do the check. His unit can still do things.
Yeah. Other people around him
I
can.
thought you said
so
him.
you lose, essentially, he loses all the bonuses for being a Thousand Sun and trades it in for getting mad.
And Rage too? But I mean, so you have to charge with Rage. So that is So that is kind of if or and. But does it say like only per turn, or could it just stack all the way to 4 in one turn?
When it happens, when they make a psychic check, you roll it, you get it for the remainder of the battle. So no, there's nothing that says once per phase or anything like that to increase. So no, if you had people around you in the first turn and there's enough of it, yes, you could go straight up to it.
So he charges, he gets Rage 4. So that means a Praetor is now having 7 attacks? No, 8. 4 attacks, so 8
9.
attacks.
Oh yeah, because it's the new value instead of the charge. The +1 is the 4. Yeah.
It's a
So
new
8 attacks.
value, yeah. Jesus Christ. Okay. I like this a lot. I mean, okay, so you trade psychic ability for hopefully you charge. That's the one caveat. So, like, okay, would I put it higher than Magister of Prospero? Probably not. I think Magister is the safer bet. It's the easier bet. It gets your psychic powers out, so on and so forth. However, I'm going to say I like Eidolon of Suffering way over Evoker of Pain.
Invoker of Pain is.
I love Evoker of Pain. Just the idea is so great.
The idea is awesome. Don't get me wrong. The idea is awesome. But your Warlord's leadership 10. So when it does go off, you have to plan for it. You have to be within 6 inches. Right, you have to make you're not going to be able to plan for it. You know what I mean? This one is more you can plan for it a lot easier because you can plan the.
I'm never a big fan of my bonus. My good thing is when a bad thing happens to me, especially when it's tough to have happen. All of them are very fluffy. All of them actually very cool. Magister or Eidolon of Suffering, I could see either one. Your army is full of psychers, so like if you want your Warlord in a unit that has a good power, or you're giving it good powers, but their leaderships aren't as great, or you truly need it, Magister or Prospero is great. Your army is full of psychers. You have psychic powers everywhere. Your independent characters add 15 points. Now you're a psycher as well. If you say I have enough of that, Eidolon of Suffering going into your unit of someone who wants to charge can absolutely swing the battle.
8 attacks on a charge is last the world leaders.
No, it's big. I could absolutely see that being the choice someone wants to make because you're not denied psychic anywhere else, and you already have a bunch of it. So if you really want, I need my biomancy powers, telepathy, I need those sort of things. You have other independent characters; they can grab those up. Oh, you want your little powers? You got plenty of those.
And I will say you do get an additional reaction in the shooting phase, which I feel is the most powerful of the reactions. In my opinion, I feel like shooting is shooting, movement, assault in that order. I feel like the most important, or shooting, assault, movement.
No, I agree. I think shooting's probably the one on top for most armies. Some if you don't have a lot of guns, sure, but for the average army that's got a little bit of everything, I do think it's a bit stronger.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
they have very good Warlord traits, which is nice. None of their Warlord traits feel bad. We may not. 2 out of 3 of us may not like the first one as much. But you can't argue with the fluff and the focus.
Exactly. No. It's not bad. It's just I don't like the fact that it requires you to fail.
On something that's hard for you to fail. It would be much spicier fun to me if you could take your test and just choose to auto-fail and do wounds. Essentially, like
that would be
smite.
Hilarious.
If it was like a smite style thing, like, oh, I don't get my power, but I hurt you.
Yeah.
Something like that would be interesting.
It would be funny if you were playing like a Loyalist Night Lords player with a bunch of fear. Or does leadership check not get modified?
It modifies your leadership for morale and all.
For specific.
Okay, not leadership, not psychic powers. Okay.
No.
Okay, that would have been funny. Like, oh no, I'm leadership 4. Eat D3.
Sure, but you wouldn't get your powers either. That's the other thing. Like I hurt you, but I don't get the cool thing I want.
I was thinking of like a funny. True. I was thinking of like a funny interaction.
Right, we are on to the Armory. It looks like there are 3 main things.
Lots of shit.
Who like a what?
Who like? There is all. I'll take the easy stuff.
The Aether Cannon.
Oh yeah, take the Aether Fire.
So I will also cover Achaean Force because that's in almost everything here, and it's kind of relevant for this. So basically, Aether Fire Cannons are taking plasma weapons and going, yes, but what if it was magical? So you could take your plasma pistols, plasma guns, and plasma blasters and upgrade them, as well as plasma cannons and Gravis plasma cannon. Okay, so the pistol's the pistol, the blaster is the plasma gun or plasma blaster, the cannon is plasma cannon, and the magna cannon is the Gravis cannon.
Are they all rending 6 up originally?
Plasma's
no, right?
4.
Normally, it's
breaching on a 4 normally.
Ooh, okay.
So you become a strength 6, bit of a downgrade. You lose some range. AP 4 base, same. Okay, so what's happening? We're not paying any points, but you know what's happening here. You get pistol 1, assault 2, heavy 1, or heavy 1. So Okay, maybe you get a little more plasma shot quantity. You're going to get Rending 6, and either Blast 3 or Blast 5, and a rule called Achaean Force. I'm not going line by line
Yeah.
because it's the base weapon, just lower strength,
Yeah,
lower
and
range.
not breaching.
Achaean Force. What is Achaean Force? Not
Yeah.
reaching, but
Yeah.
rending on a 6. Achaean Force. If you attack with a weapon this rule, you could activate it before making any attacks. You do a psychic check using the leadership of any model in the unit that's not an independent character. If you're successful, the strength of all attacks with that rule is increased by 2, and you only get it for that phase. So essentially, your strength is going to go up to 8 on all these attacks. It's an option.
Hold on. I was going to say, you also still get the fire if you fail. It just you don't get the benefit.
Oh yeah.
And you don't peril.
Okay,
It's an option. Strength 8 plasmas is cool, but you're losing on what makes plasma good, and that's the ability to break through good armor
But
saves.
you're gaining instant death on
against
toughness
4.
Okay.
If you fight lots and lots and lots of Pride of Legion, there might be a place for it. But then all those lists use Terminators, and certain Terminators get to re-roll their saves against blast weapons.
Yeah.
Oh, very true.
And I would rather have breaching 4 up and force those onto their invulnerables that they cannot re-roll than let them sit there with a re-rollable 2 up unless I happen to roll a 6 to move. So I would put this under cool, but never gonna use. Personally.
I don't see the spot I want these weapons. Like you said, if you're facing tons of
if it's running 5, I could see some value. But 6 is just not there. Like, you can't even use it for a shooting attack because you don't have enough dice to fish for the 6.
The 6 is a bit of a trap. To some extent. To me, I guess the only reason would be if you because none of these weapons are an additional cost. So if you wanted plasma weapons, or if that's what you have, and you want the possibility, they don't get hot. That's a very useful thing. Actually, it's a very big difference.
You just risk, cooking your face off magically instead of,
to me, it's like
plasma.
if you wanted a plasma style weapon, or you already put plasma weapons on your guys and you painted them a funny color. Okay, call it this. And you want to be able to hurt big vehicles because it is rending, so you get the extra D3 on a vehicle and you can make it strength 8. So normal plasma is going to either not be able to touch or really struggle against heavier vehicles. Things much above like the 11 or so, or 12, and then other ones it can't even touch, like something on 14. So I guess like that. Though, I mean, take las cannons maybe instead, but I don't see the draw. I don't see why I would really want these except for that weird scenarios.
Maybe I was gonna say maybe the Magna Cannon. If you're facing tactical blobs with an
but
apothecary,
they get their save.
That's but every
Okay.
you don't get a
But
fail.
only one in 6 of my wounds is going to deny you any form of a save anyway. And I'd rather.
No, I mean
I know, but
I
would need to roll 6 for the rending for the AP to be a thing. I kind of like the normal one, assuming I don't roll the one on gets hot. Honestly, maybe actually the one spot I would take it on the blast weapons, because I have rolled the gets hot on that weapon, and therefore you don't even get to shoot it. So maybe there, because at least I get to shoot this no matter what. I could make it the strength 8, and I'll W you out if you don't get it. If you fail your save, the plasma gun is still better, but there's a chance you don't get to fire it. So maybe there, maybe. I'm still not huge on it. You want the fancy shells, Stan, or do you want the force weapon? Do it.
I'll actually take the shells. I'll take the shells because it's on the Castellax too. So it's the most annoying point weapon too. It annoys the shit out of me. You'll see why in a second. So Ahzek shells can be replaced any bolt pistol for an Axis bolt pistol, or a bolter for an Axis bolter for 1 point per weapon. I hate when they do that, but whatever. It's 1 point per weapon. And then the bolt cannon that I'm going to be talking about is only found in the Castellax. So, the Ahzek's bolt pistol, again, shorter range. We're looking at 8 inches. Ahzek's bolter, 18 inches. Ahzek bolt cannon, 24 inches. The bolt pistol and bolter are both strength 4, AP 5. They're both pistol 1 and rapid fire. And then the bolt cannon is exactly like the Mauler bolt cannon from Mechanican. It's strength 6, AP 4. The only difference is that they all have thread. So essentially, you're trading 6
Roll
inches
those
of
wounds.
exactly. You're trading 6 inches of range for a reroll to wounds. The bolt cannon loses pinning, by the way, and gains shred. I should have said. For 1 point per bolter, I would do it. To reroll wounds,
Yeah,
I would do it.
Bolters normally wound on a 4, so being able to reroll means you're actually going to get wounds in, rather than half of what you get through. Keep hitting the mic. Do you get Fury of the Legion? It counts as a bolt weapon, but Fury says bolter or bolt. How is actually the word?
Negative,
Yeah,
sir.
so we have
Because
this has been argued.
this is not a bolter. It's an asphyx bolter, and I'm sorry. An asphyx bolter is not a bolter.
So I disagree
because you
with
exchange
Steve.
it.
Yeah.
It's-
I disagree with Steve 100%. And again, this needs the errata or fact.
It's not an errata or fact.
And I'll explain it to you right now, Dan, why this will not work.
Go ahead.
In Fury of the Legion. Because if we compare it to the very, very, very similar, almost equivalent weapon of the Iron Warrior's Shrapnel Bolter, their Right of War specifically says that the Shrapnel Bolters get to be used in their special Fury of the Legion attack that they get in the Right of War, not regular bolters, because this is not a bolter.
I will go one further on that to prove why as well, because now I flipped the Fury of the Legion.
You also don't get what's it called?
No.
To take bayonets.
That I think should change, but technically by rule, yeah, you don't. Fury of the Legion, the very last line of it says, hey, you get this extra shot when shooting a bolter. Parentheses. This does not include combi bolters, bolt pistols, or other bolt weapons. This one says it is a bolt weapon. It doesn't say it is a bolt. It doesn't list itself as a bolter. Okay. It's a bolt weapon. So no.
No, you're good then. No. Got it. No, it makes sense.
Still could have.
Still, shred on bolters. I've still taken it, in my opinion. For a point to model on TAC Marines, I'll still take it.
Forget.
Yeah.
Put this on Breacher Marines.
Not your TAC
Put this
Marines.
on veterans. Because Breachers basically Breachers have a 5-up invul, right? You make them I'm blanking on the cult now, and I feel stupid. The telekinetic cult. Raptora. Make them Raptora. Now they have a 4-up invulnerable save. And give them these bolters for an extra point. Now, they're hitting on 3s, wounding on 4s with the reroll against Marines. They're a decent fire base. And they're not that much more expensive, adding a point per model. And they're decently durable. Tactical Marines, don't bother with this because you're better off rolling the extra die than re-rolling 1 die.
Because that means TAC versus TAC, which is a lot of times, depending on where in the game is, that's what I'm firing at. My Tactical Marines are trying to shoot down your Tactical Marines. I can outrange you. You can't react and shoot me back because your reaction, if I moved, would have more shots probably than I have, Marine per Marine. So you won't have more shots than me. You will get rerolls, so you'll be a little bit more reliable on wounds. But you're going to get less shots, and I have the ability to outrange you now. Because the difference of those 6 inches is actually pretty big for where your TAC Marines probably are. They're most likely not the guys rushing up the field. I do like it on, like you said, on your breachers, people whose job it is to get to the front, or the bolt pistol, like losing a little bit of range on your bolt pistol. If you're wanting to upgrade, I don't know if you want to spend the point on it, but on your bolt pistol, sure, the difference of 4 inches there is not so big because you're already up in someone's face.
I did see someone take 20 breachers with this and inside a Mastodon.
There it makes sense because the range isn't going to be an issue. And I'm the one firing at you to start with. So I want the shred. I want to be able to, lower your numbers real quick. Where your TAC Marine's probably closer to the back. And I can play a little bit of keep away. And you made them more expensive. And if you make TAC Marines more expensive, I can be happy about that. Nobody will tell us.
You know what's stupid?
No,
There's no
yeah,
combi bolter
that's
version.
weird that they didn't just give them that. That they should have.
Once again,
I don't think there was a combi
Both-
bolter version in the last one either.
correct. And it makes me
Yeah.
so sad because, a little foreshadowing here,
Yeah.
Sons of Horus do have a combi bolter version.
Apparently, you only get that if the Emperor likes you enough. All right. Last thing we got here is the Achea pattern force weapons. They are force weapons. It's any model that is Thousand Suns and a character unit subtype can exchange a power weapon for any of these force weapons for no additional points cost. Importantly, though, a model with independent character special rule may not select this. Normally, when you get like cool special weapons, you have to be the independent character. They cannot. So this replaces for your normal characters. Each of these is the normal weapon. So there's a force sword, force axe, force maul. They're sword, axe, and maul in all the base ways to start with. So normal AP, normal strength bonuses, whether they're rending, unwieldy, all of that, but they all have that Achaean force. So that's the make a psychic check. You get to increase the strength by 2, which actually is really big because I mentioned it there, but under Achaean force, this is the one spot. I hope they don't FAQ this later or something. This is the one spot when you make a psychic test, or is it technically a psychic test or just a leadership? Yeah, psychic test, where you don't perils when you fail, which means if you take it on the guy, if I already have a sword, I'll make it a force sword. I can maybe be 2 extra strength, and if I fail it, there's nothing bad that happens to me. Still get to make the attack. You don't lose the shot on the weapon.
Then I'd like to apologize for my Aether Fire coverage because I may have mentioned you risk
I
perils.
said you didn't. I don't know if you said that.
No, you didn't.
I still wouldn't. I still wouldn't take it.
No,
I still wouldn't take the Aether Fires. The force weapons,
they're
though,
free.
are
If you already
interesting.
have a power weapon on you, it's free. Swap out. 100% swap out.
Free, yeah. Swap
Yeah.
out, yeah. It's literally free.
Yeah.
It's the
And you
same
get the
thing,
extra
just
And
bonus
now
magic.
at +2
Yeah.
strength,
Yeah.
I like a force sword
The
at +2
malls
strength.
become a little sexier.
I'm
I'll say,
so
I like the
sad there's
malls
no
at
lance.
strength 8.
True.
I like the malls at strength 8.
That would actually be.
That makes me kind of happy.
That would be the one spot
Initiative
I'd take them
instant
all. I
death is
currently
very
don't.
nice.
One, I don't actually have them. But even if I did, my Legion gets bonuses for swords, but I usually just take the sword anyway. But that's absolutely a spot I would take a maul then if I could make a strength 8 maul that's AP 3. Now Dan's talk of no apothecary saves. Well, hey, there you go. We're in combat, and your normal guys don't get that anymore. Or I could double out a Terminator if you roll a 1. So.
And you could absolutely murk Mechanicum.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the axe would be a decent dreadnought hunting weapon then, because strength 7 AP 2 means you're wounding on 4s. Not terrible. So if you have some weapon skill 5 squads, you could throw a couple of those in there. But it's only the characters. So...
No, it's free. So like I said, it's literally, I see no reason not to take this at all. Like, you don't perils.
Independent characters do not get this option flat out.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, like, if you have a sword, axe, or maul, I'm trying to figure out a reason why you would not take this, and I'm not coming up with a reason because there's no perils of the war.
The only thing it comes into is, normally when you pick on your character model, you might have an idea of which option you want. Well, does your mind change now? Like I said, I don't take mauls, but if I can make a maul strength 8, now it's a much more attractive option to me. So that would be the only thing of now. If you look at all these, if they were 2 extra strength, does it change your mind of what you like? And that's where I think the choices start to come in. You'll always take one, but maybe you'll take something different than you would if you didn't have the bonus strength. All right. That seems to be Warlord. Armory. I was looking at my notes and I was off by one little bit when I was taking a look at it. So we now can get into these units. Does anyone have a particular... Dan, you're obviously taking the Automata. You don't get a say in that. You can still talk about something else. That's fine. They have 5 units, but we know you're taking that one.
No, I know. I got the Automata. I got you. By the way, slight note.
This is automatically skipping.
I don't want to skip ahead, but I am very salty about the Automata.
All right, we'll talk about when we get there.
I am salty about the Automata.
Then maybe we won't have you talk about
super salt when we get to it. No, not in a bad way. In a GW wrote this, not in a rules way. In a not spell check. In a when you check reading. Oh, man, I'm like
Copy
losing the
edit?
words here. Like when you check,
Yeah.
like when editing, like
Okay.
editing salt.
Steve,
gonna
do
see it as
you
editing.
have a preference of, because we have two that come before the Automata, do you have a preference of the Terminators or Special Dreadnought boys? Oh yeah,
Or Stan wants the Automata.
go for it.
I'll take the Terminators because I deal with these guys I
Okay.
dealt with these guys quite a bit historically. So I like to see how things have adjusted. So, Sekhmet Terminator Cabals. For an extra 100 points on the generic version of a Cataphracti squad, you're going to gain a weapon skill.
Gain a leadership.
You get
Yeah, they're 8 and 9.
do you gain leadership? You do gain leadership. You gain weapon skill and leadership. You're going to get an Achea pattern force weapon. You're a psyker, but you're already at because you're 1,000 sun. And you get true stubborn, not inexorable. You could take a Proteus, you could take a Dreadclaw, you take a Spartan, you take up to 5 extra guys for 50
pricey boys.
points a model. Any Combi Bolter can become a Magna, Combi Weapon Minor, Combi Weapon, or a Volkite Charger. And you could exchange your Force Weapon for a Power Fist for 10 points, a Lightning Claw for 5, a Chain Fist for 15, or a Thunder Hammer for 15. Your unit leader could take a Grenade Harness, and the unit leader may select a Psychic Discipline from the core list for 25 points. Which does that? I'm trying to understand. Does that mean you don't?
That you don't naturally have a psychic power?
No, you do. No, that you don't
you
get
have
Arcana.
no,
Occult Arcana.
you have
you?
Cult Arcana.
No, you still get called.
You still
but
do?
that
Okay.
normally doesn't grant you actual psychic disciplines. You can spend 25 points and actually get a discipline. Yeah.
Okay.
You get to have both.
Copy. Yup. Cool. And you're gonna take the discipline.
Don't look at these guys if you
You're
don't
gonna
take the
the
disciplines are so good.
You're taking the discipline.
Biomancy.
I
I
don't
take
even know what you would take with
Biomancy
them.
and
There's so
I
many good
take
ones.
either that, and I take Pavoni.
Telepathy, because
Yep.
pinning things is hilarious.
Pinning them or what's that? Not letting them do reactions.
Something when you shot at me, there was like
No reactions, yeah.
-1 to the
Is it
leadership.
like every hit
for the
does
pinning
like?
test.
And when it's a librarian that does it and they're BS5, that means you're usually applying a -4, very often a -6.
These guys at BS4, you should be at least applying a -2, -3. That's enough to feel pretty comfortable that you'll get it. I like these guys with either of those. Yeah.
Yep. And if
I
that
don't get to
fails,
react
then you
and I'm
take away
moving
reactions.
faster because
Yeah.
I'm taking the one that lets me move quicker.
Yeah. Or
Yes.
if
Oh
you
yeah,
certain
the one
Knights of
right of
War
war
have
does
to
let you
striking.
deep strike, so then you don't have to worry about it quite as much.
I like Sekhmet. They're kind of pricey. But this unit, it does work. Weapon skill 5 Terminators are a very, very useful thing to have. I don't think they're not what they were last edition. They can't access that 3 invulnerable anymore. I mean, they have the Legion Advanced Reaction, but that's about it. So they won't all be Raptora. Maybe we'll see some Pavoni in there so that you have, sprinting
That's the one I like.
Cataphracti. Just zooming across the board at 9 inches a turn. Or maybe
No.
we'll see. We're not going to see
there's
Pirate.
other ones that feel better.
We're not going
than
to see
that.
Pirate. Not a chance.
Nope.
I wouldn't give them the
You got
precision
Combi
shot
Bolter.
because that's shooting. Yep. No, they're
The other
Pavoni
nice
now.
part.
They're going to be Pavoni.
So they are more points. Taking a squad of 5 guys and taking the auto include psychic discipline. Okay, they're sitting at 300 points. But I don't normally when you take a Terminator squad, I feel compelled to take some of the switch out weapons of their normal power weapons for chain fist, thunder hammers, all those sorts of things. When you have one of their force weapons, which I fail the test, nothing bad happens, or at least on my one leader, I'm not as concerned because at least I can get that extra strength. So that's a little less swapping out I'm going to have to do. And maybe I'm a little bit happier with that. So I'm not spending some of those extra points, at least on one of those models. So there's still more, but they're not so far out of line for special Terminators. once you consider some of the changes you may not have to do and having your extra psychic powers. I mean, like I said, if you think of someone, there's always a chance you fail, of course. At least they're leadership 9. But having a shot at Cataphracti that move an extra 3 inches, or a Cataphracti that could be toughness 5, strength 5, or Cataphracti that say you don't get to react, I will spend extra points for that. Absolutely.
I think so here's interesting. And the reason I like the Axis so much is that it turns it essentially into a Myrmidon axe. Strength 7, AP 2, yes, you're not instant deathing, and it is unwieldy, but Strength 7 is still going to wound pretty much anything on 2s, and still Contemptors on 4. So,
Honestly, I take them all.
I like the axe option on
remember,
these guys
though,
a lot.
Oh, yeah, because they all have it. Yeah, so I would take maybe an axe or 2. I would take a couple
Yeah, they all have it.
mauls because they're AP 3, so I'm good against that strength 8. Or if I'm going against Terminators, if I make you roll enough, you'll fail a save. And that might actually be better than an axe in some of those spots. Since they all have
Exactly.
it, I think you can keep these guys a little bit cheaper. I don't think you have to upgrade them as much with weapons, which is going to save you, honestly, it's going to save you a lot of points.
I agree.
I think my 5-man Terminator squad, but it's 175, but when I'm all said and done, I'm into I'm, near 250 with those guys with weapon upgrades and all. These guys aren't too bad for all that. Do they have like a...
They also
Probably
look
throw
fantastic.
in-
I will say we haven't mentioned this
Yes.
yet.
Well,
The
that's
Thousand
obvious.
Suns aesthetic is very Egyptian, but they look yes, they
Stunning.
look fantastic. Like I'm going to say, like I think Magistus Amon is probably one of my more favorite special characters that they've done. But the Cataphracti is beautiful. The Castellax is beautiful. Their Osiron Dreadnought is beautiful. But yeah, their Sekhmet.
Not a big
Mwah.
fan on the face
They're
mask, but
deliciously
I like the
beautiful.
rest of it, or the helmet. The rest of it I like. It does, I'm just not a big fan, that's all.
It fits with the theme. It fits with the theme.
It's a shame that these guys are locked into Cataphracti because the 40k Tartaros models are almost a perfect port.
Mm.
You could convert them with the actual Cataphracti kit. It's doable. Some of it's easy, some of it's a bit of a pain. I've done it. It looks decent, just a little bit of extra work to splice them. But there's some easy stuff you could do, like swap over the headdresses and the bolters, and you're 2/3 of the way there. Then you have the issue of the left arm.
And I mean,
Left
these
arm's always a
guys,
pain.
yes, I'm looking at them now. They both look very cool, and rules-wise, these guys are very good. I would absolutely, if I was playing Thousand Suns, I'd absolutely take these guys, for sure.
Oh yeah.
All right. That,
Good.
unless someone else has something else about them, that will do it for them. So that puts us on to their special dreadnought, going in the order, at least I have here in my notes, and that's what we're going with. So this is the Contemptor-Osiron Dreadnought Talon, 200 points. So taking a look across, it is normal Contemptor stat line. You get one of these guys. The big thing is he's a Contemptor that is a Psyker. He comes with a Gravis Bolt Cannon. He has a Gravis Force Blade with built-in Combi Bolter and the automatic deflector. I'm sure they'll tell us about... Yeah, they tell us about the blade there. Good. All right. It has a special role, Dreadnought Talon. As we know, we'll talk about that. And he has Adamantine Will. So he is a Psyker with Adamantine Will who is a Contemptor. So, of course, then you can take extras because it is the Talon. So you can take up to 2 more for 200 points each. For the weapon options, are those the same prices? I'm looking. Am I on the right book here? I am in the correct book. Let me get to it. Remember, those would just be replaces
I don't know about
for the
Aid
plasma.
Fire Magna Cannon because that
normal plasma is 20.
Yeah,
it is cheaper. Well, it's half the price, which makes
cheaper.
sense. It's not quite as
Way
good as
cheaper.
the plasma in certain ways. There's certain ways maybe you can make that arrangement. Otherwise, it looks like the points are the same. Yeah, they look about the same. Otherwise, he also, of course, can replace the built-in Combi Bolter in his Gravis Force Blade with heavy flamers, Aether Fire Blasters, Graviton Guns, or Melta Guns. All of those, actually, some of those are cheaper. Like the Graviton Gun base is 15. Here it's 10. Melt-A-Gun is the same. Plasma Blaster versus Aether Fire Blaster, same cost, and the Flamer. So pretty much very similar in costs. Havoc Launcher is the same. He cannot take a targeting array, it doesn't look like. They can select a minor arcana for 15 points each. Remember, each one can get one, but only one, but they are, by the look of it, they could each select different ones because they're deployed like a unit, but they're not. Well, actually, when you're a Talon, yeah, so you'd only be able, yeah, it'd have to have the same
They
one. Then,
start
yeah,
as
they
a
actually
unit,
do
so I
start
think
as
they'd
one.
have to be the same.
You can only have the same one, yes.
Okay. And the Talon composed of a single model may be upgraded to a Siren Magus Dreadnought and may select a single Psychic Discipline for 50 points. So they don't base get a minor, but you can add 15 points for it. And if it's by itself, you could actually give it a full Psychic Discipline for 50 points. For the Force Blade, it is very similar to a Contemptor Fist. It's Strength 9 AP 2. It's melee, but it's Brutal 2 instead of 3. And it has the Arcane Force, which means it can be Strength 11. Yes.
With Brutal 2.
Which would you prefer? A Movement 11 Dreadnought or a 4-up Invulnerable Save Dreadnought? Or would you rather target that las cannon wound you're going to score?
No. This is what you do. You take away its ranged weapon and give it dual Gravis Force Blades.
Okay,
right?
let's see where this is going.
Why?
All right.
You make it move 11. You make it move 11, and then that's one elite. Then you take 3 more who are all minors with also dual fists, and you run up the board with Strength 11, Brutal 2.
Because you have
I
2
think
melee
if you get
weapons.
2 fists, you add an attack, right?
Because you don't have 2 weapons, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So it'd be 4 attacks at Brutal 2,
You're spending
Strength
a
11.
lot of points on all that. You can absolutely do it, but you're spending a whole lot of points.
3K points is the 3K points is the stupid question.
Yeah.
This doesn't. Okay. Fury of the Ancients.
Oh god.
No.
Does this mean this can be taken?
Nope. Yeah, it's a
Fury of the
No,
special
Ancients?
because it's
one.
not a Contemptor Talon.
Got it. Okay.
It's a
Got it.
Yeah, you cannot put it in there.
Osiron Dreadnought Talon.
Got it. That's what I was gonna say. I was like, hold on a second. Good.
It matches the theme, but it's not. It also can't be the Warlord because it's only a Contemptor Dreadnought Talon of a single model that could be the Warlord. It would have been neat if this one gave you an exception to that, like a special rule, like if you're playing Fury of the Ancients, this model counts as. But unfortunately,
So if you're doing
it's not.
Thousand Suns and you're going to run a
Still.
Contemptor, do you switch it to be this guy? That's the real question. Extra 25 points base.
Or an extra what? It's an extra. And let's give
You're
it the minor
losing
arcana.
a step of Brutal, so you're going to lose against other Dreadnoughts. Just understand that off the bat. You're going to lose against other Dreadnoughts.
Why would you lose?
Because they're Brutal 3 and you're Brutal 2.
So you gain if you take the minor to
You're
get
right.
the better invul.
But okay, so you lose against Contemptors, but you win against everything else that is toughness 5 or lower.
Oh, definitely.
Like, because any Contemptor has a toughness 9 fist. If you're hitting toughness 5, you're gonna cry yourself to sleep. Anything that is toughness, like so I look at this Dreadnought as a mechanical player, and I'm like, I will shoot this thing before I even look at it in melee.
Strength 11 is also great for ripping apart tanks.
Yeah. Like, I will not go near this thing. I will actively avoid this thing on the battlefield as much as humanly possible.
So let's just assume you're taking the
15 for
minor
minor.
arcana for the extra
15.
15. Okay. And so that's an extra 40 points
for what?
over the base, right?
Yeah, you're looking at an extra 40
Because base
off of base.
175. A normal Contemptor is 175 snout for
Yeah.
so 40 extra points. You could be super fast with the Force Blade. You could then, quote unquote, save 10 of those points back if you're gonna go dual grav gun, which was very popular last edition, and it isn't terrible this edition either. I mean, Dan's gonna cry, but that's a Dan problem.
They're blast. That's the only reason I cry. I don't even care that they're used
don't have
against
to take
me.
the models. That simple.
I hate the fact that they're blast so much.
Then you have tons of
Wizard
models.
League,
You
man.
could always
Wizard
run
League.
something different,
Then build them different. Get built differently.
or just play some of
I
the
would have
other
to 3D print. I would have
thousands
to rip
of
the guns
points
off
you
in
have.
3D print because Forge only sends them.
You are complaining about a problem that you're causing yourself.
But if you're gonna go dual grav gun
Yeah.
anyway, that's 30 points extra.
If you're running Thousand
I
Suns,
say
I
that's
think,
worth it.
especially if you're only running one, I think you absolutely take this guy instead. You're a Psyker army. Lean into the Psyker. Lean into what you do. And it absolutely definitely makes him scary. If you do take the one for extra move, like I said, yeah, +3 on this. Moving to the train, you don't care about any of that. That is huge. Or like I said, you could take other crazy stuff. Or I don't know if I would do the full power for
Ignoring the
50.
terrain.
It's not bad. It's good, but that's a lot. That's very expensive. I kind of like the miners enough for him. The full power might be starting to get a little bit pricier than I'd like.
A talent of 3. It's expensive. I could see a talent of 3 for what, 645. I could see that in a 3K game. I can easily see around 645 for a Dreadnought Talon. Let's round it up to 700 for, I don't know, whatever weapons you might want. Yeah, I can easily see that like a fourth of your army.
Yeah.
In these
Though I will
models.
say it could very much hurt if you do miss that leadership check because you're only 6 wounds, and if you roll that D3 to be a 3 and you don't make some of those invols, you could absolutely be doing terrible things to yourself. But no, they're very cool. If you're running these guys, if you're running Contemptors, absolutely take one. The core box has a Contemptor, just call it one of these guys. If you can get some 40k little bits, you can put some more Thousand Sunny looking things on them.
Does adamantium will
Psychic
protect
powers.
you against
or psychic stuff, I should say?
Yeah, but
no.
Is peril considered a psychic?
It's a certain amount of wounds.
Hold on.
Okay.
Nope. Not true. Models with the adamantium will special rule gain an invulnerable save against any wounds inflicted by the weapon with a force or psychic.
So you got a 4 up against
and wounds inflicted
perils.
by perils with a warp. So it is a 4 plus.
It's still going to hurt if you start perils because you're losing your abilities and you're hurting yourself.
Very true, but that is.
Yeah.
There is that nice caveat that it's not a 5 up; it's a 4 up.
I mean, he has a 5 up from his what's it called? So.
The adamantic, but it's a 4 up. It's a 4 up for adamantic will, which is not bad. +1 invulnerable. Enjoy.
That puts us to the special Castellax.
Yeah, the beep boop. Very expensive. So, the Castellax-Achea Automata is 140 points for 1. For reference, a normal Castellax is 95. So
exactly 45, not even
about what? 45 points more? Yeah. Oof. Let me see here. Looking at the stats. Interesting. All right, so looking at the stats, it's 1 less strength. So it's not strength 7, it's strength 6. Same toughness, same wounds, same initiative, same attacks. I'm not sure about the leadership, but same save as well. All right, you get a unit of 1. You can get another one. You can get 4 additional for 140 each. So unit of 5. They are armed with an Aether Fire Cannon, which is the shitty plasma. So they're armed with Aether Fire Cannons. I would honestly just take the Bolt Cannons. It's a free switch. They're armed with 2 Asphex Bolters. Those are the ones in the claws. 2 Force Claws and an Adamantic Deflector. They have Hammer of Wrath 1. They have Adamantium Will 4+. They are Psi Automata. So that's a new one.
But they cannot take Minor Arcana.
And they're Psychers. So let's see. Scroll down.
Yes, but it specifically calls
they
it out.
They cannot take Minor. They probably have their own. Yeah, they have a whole. Ooh, yeah. Got it. So, the Arcane Force Claw. Is it going to make me? It does make me. Oh yeah, the salt.
Go
I was
through
going
it
to
first.
mention.
Talk about the salt afterwards.
Wait,
go
is
through
it
the
now? Let's see here. Yeah. I'll talk about it. Then I'm gonna. So, the Achea Force Claw melee weapon. It's strength 6, AP 3, melee, rending 5 up, and Achaean Force.
Yeah.
So it could become strength. Oh my god, it can become strength 8 rending. Oh, that's sexy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's much better than Castellax.
Salt be gone.
So real quick, that already justifies the 45 points. I don't even read the Scion Armada, but that already justifies it for me. So let's read this.
Don't read
this
through
is a
each
long
piece.
rule thing, so I apologize for our listeners, but let's do this.
Instead of Cortex Controller.
Well, no, I'm gonna paraphrase because some of this
bullet
is
point
normal
1.
Exactly.
Since I know this one. Bullet point 1.
Oh, go ahead.
Essentially, if you have a psychic independent 1,000 summons within 6 inches, you get to control your model. Otherwise, it does program behavior, so it
Which, yeah.
shoots and charges the closest thing.
Oh, okay. So
You get to use all your
behavior.
weapons. You can fire heavy and ordnance, counting as
So the
stationary.
same thing.
It's the usual stuff, but instead of Cortex controllers overriding, it's a psychic independent character, Thousand Sun, within 6 inches.
Oh, and one more. Wait. There's one more thing. So yes. So for people who play Automata, instead of a Magos being near, you have to be near a psychic, a friendly psyker, 6 inches to ignore program behavior. But
The
one
last
more
thing,
thing,
the most exciting thing, that
Jesus.
last bullet.
Yeah, wow. When making a psychic weapon when using a psychic weapon to make a shooting attack from within 12 inches of the Castellax-Achea model, a model with a psychic subtype with the Legion of Stardust Thousand Sun special rule may use the Castellax-Achea model as the origin point of the attack, drawing line of sight and range from it rather
You can
than
bounce
themselves.
the shots off them.
So that's pretty spicy. Because you can, you bounce the shots off, and that's pretty spicy. That's 12 inches,
Huge.
but 12 inches is pretty big.
It's amazing in Zone Mortalis because you start slinging spells around corners.
Over walls. How about that? Like through walls. Yeah. All right. So let's review. Never take the other fire cannon for the reasons we listed before. Take this thing with the Ahzek bolt cannon because it's strength 6 before shred. Screw it. It's nice. It can't take. Let me not select the minor kind of. So it just can't take the Prosperine Arcana, which is what? Now I have to run minors.
It doesn't get a psychic power. It gets no.
Oh, just any of the minors. Okay, I thought it was one of the specific ones. Got it. You have your Adamantium Will 4+. You lose a strength, but your Achea Force Claw is a million times better than the Mechanicum Force or the Mechanicum Claws, because you get, first of all, you get Rending 5 up, which doesn't exist in Mechanicum, and you can make that strength 8, which you can't do it. The 6 inches does hurt because Mechanicum, I believe, is 12 inches, which allows a little bit more freedom.
Yep.
6 inches.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
It's 12 normally.
Yeah, 6 inches is a bit. But it's a fucking. You're playing
attach a Forge Lord to the unit. He'll be healing them on a 2-up, and look at that, he's attached because he has Master of Automata that allows him to.
Oh yeah, because it's unit time Automata. You're good. Yeah, so you can heal them with a Forge Lord. And I like the fact that they can sling attacks out of them. And they're really, these are great. That may, so there's still weapon skill 3 is the problem. So you still don't want to shove them into close combat, because the new weapon skill table that 2.0 uses is harsh against the weapon skill changes or like the variables. But for 140 points, I'm gonna take 2 of them. When I take them over the Contemptor,
they fill a reasonably different role. One, the Contemptor's a lot more expensive, but they're not the same sort of role.
Yeah.
Part of these guys, I think you're taking it if you want to be able to use them as a point to send your spells off from your psychic weapons, because two of the psychic weapons are 18-inch range. One of them's 24, one's 36, and you either one might be too far to use it from where you are, or two, you could be in position so at least you don't get seen. Because notice it's drawing line of sight and range. So you don't add 12 inches.
You add 12
to
inches
it.
to
You
the
target
spell,
from him instead. He's not adding 12 inches because you might not be in line of sight of them.
Well,
but he is.
To put it in old fantasy battle terms, your Slann is going to cast spells through a skink.
Exactly. That's it. But you are adding range because the Castellax can be 12 inches away, and now your spell that's only 24 inches now can technically reach 36.
That's
what I meant.
Threat bubble is bigger.
Yeah, the threat bubble is increased. I mean, I should put out, it does shoot out DACA. Like, that is a shit ton of, like, shred bolters. That's what? 4 shots that shred at strength 4, and then 4 shots that shred at strength 6. So 4 for 4. That's 12 shots a pop shredding.
So the reason I bring up related
Not
to
bad.
its ability, because for being able to launch shots off of it, I can be in a position where I am not seen. I can shoot you, and are you allowed to shoot back at me? Because I'm drawing line of sight in range, but
no, because I can't see you.
You don't see the actual model firing. Yeah. Yeah, so I
You
could
have to see the
actually be
you have
using
to see
this
the
to be able
person
to
you're
use some
reacting
of these
to.
powers that therefore I can't be reacted against. At least be shot back against. Like what's the base one? Etheric Lightning, which is for all intents and purposes, a shooting attack. You can't shoot me back if I'm in the right spot. Yeah, I like. He is cool. He is not comparable in any way to the Contemptor because they're very different roles. And this guy is not going to stand up to the punishment nearly as easy. So you got to be definitely a lot more careful with him.
No, but I do like Steve's idea of sticking a Forge Lord in there because is the Forge Lord is Battlesmith 4 up or is he
4
5
up,
up?
and he has a
Machinator Array.
Machinator Array, so it's
If you heal
effectively
him
a
up-
2 up.
You heal him on a 2 up.
It might even be good.
It's not bad. I like it.
All right, so we have
Mm,
2 more units left. Then we go to
Maybe.
special character. Everything is a unit, I should say. But 2 more units that aren't individual guys are special characters. Does anyone have a preference? Go for it. Yeah, they're the next ones here.
I'll take the Khenetai. So the Khenetai Occult Cabal. For 145 points, you are going to get a veteran squad, essentially. They're going to have a bolt pistol, 2 Achea Force Swords, fancy, frag and crack grenades, power armor. They're going to be infantry with Psyker, their squad leader's a character, they're Thousand Sons, they're chosen warriors. They have a rule called Warriors of the Khenetai. They can take a Rhino or a Land Raider Proteus. You take up to 5 extra guys for 24 points a model. You, for 1 and 5, can replace a bolt pistol with their off-brand plasma pistol.
Nah, it's too
or a
expensive.
hand flamer. They never bother with it, honestly. You can take Artificer Armor on your Sergeant, which you're going to do. And you can take Melted Bombs too, which is probably not a bad shout because you're locked into the Force Swords. So if you happen to run into a Dread, those Melted Bombs might just bail you out. Let's get into special rules. Warriors of the Khenetai. A model with special rule gains the Mind Song of Blades psychic power and may not select a minor arcana from those presented in the General Legion special rule. So instead of a minor arcana, you get this psychic power. At the start of the controlling player's turn, a psychic check may be made for a unit composed entirely of models with this power, using the highest from among those models. If successful, the unit gains +1 to all the following characteristics until the controlling player's next turn. Movement, putting them up to 8. Weapon skill, putting them up to 6. And attacks, putting them up to 3 on the regular guys and 4 on the sergeant. If failed, the unit suffers perils of the war. Ooh.
You're at least on a
Risky.
9, so that helps because
Risky,
you're a
but
vet stat
that's
line instead of sitting on the 8.
nice.
Though if you
Yeah.
fail, you might not have an invul, but at least you're 2 wounds, so you're not losing like 3 guys on a bad roll.
Here's the one thing I don't like. You can't attach a character and cast this.
Yeah, because they have to have entirely models with this power, assuming no one else has it. But
Yup.
no.
No one else is
You
gonna have it.
okay. You can't what's
Hmm.
the starting? So it's at the start of your
Maybe
phase you do
Magnus.
it. And later
Ah.
it doesn't check. So just don't be attached in the beginning.
Oh god. So if you have, here's the thing: you can't leave and join squads in the same turn. So your character could like ride in a separate transport all on his own,
Yeah, not being able to
get
leave
out,
it in turn
and join
hurts.
them. So that means you're buying a Land Raider for the squad, and then a heavy support
Yeah.
Land Raider to pull this off.
I'm
'cause
not
you're gonna
saying
want
you
to
should
charge
necessarily
to get out
do
of
that, but
vehicle.
there could occur.
That's a lot of... Oh, and you can't
No,
even do
no,
this
they
if
need
you're in
to
a
be out.
vehicle because
Yeah,
you're not on the
they
table,
have
so
to
you can't do
be
checks.
on foot. It's rough. So the fact
Yeah.
it has to be at the start
Ugh.
of your turn and not at some other point. It's amazing what you get for it. Extra weapon skill, extra attacks are huge. The movement is good as well. And obviously for charging purposes, it's nice because now you get to the point where you get the +1 on the charge. But they are forcing you to be standing out, waiting. You know, they're dedicated. Yeah, there's no reason not to take. If you don't care so much about the ability, you could take a Proteus or something else. But the Rhino's not honestly terrible for them because the turn they come out, I don't have my bonuses anyway. At least they do have 2 Force Swords. Yeah.
It's still a veteran with 2 swords.
Yes.
To be
2
fair,
power swords are probably be strength 6.
And I was gonna say, to be fair, like the turn they come out of the Land Raider, they're still gonna destroy anything that they touch. What's really cool about this, by the way, is because they have the 2/4
Thank you for
swords,
saying the
they're
literal
really
point you
actually
just said.
3/4 attacks, right?
That is the point.
I would. Well, no, it was not that. It was just because. Well, repeat it because I'd actually disorder charge these guys. I would try to disorder charge them, catch maybe 2-3 squads spaced out because you can have what? Don't tell me it's 15. Oh, thank God it's 10. Catch 2 squads with their charge, right? I'm not going to say try not to kill them, but like space out the wounds ish so that hopefully you kind of get tied in, and then cast your psychic power the next turn around while you're tied in.
I just
He doesn't
checked.
even-
Magnus will deny them the
Yeah.
psychic power because he knows
Okay.
all the core
It-
disciplines, and this ain't a core discipline.
So that's what I would do.
That's
I
a
would
shame.
I would take 10 of these, put them in a land raider, multi-charge, and then maybe they don't kill, maybe they do, but they're 3/4 attacks each. I think even if they multi-charge, whatever they hit is going to crumble. If it's normal tactical Marines, because they don't have.
Even like Terminators will struggle because these guys are weapon skill 5, and normal Terminators are base weapon skill 4.
Yeah.
So they're hitting
I
on 3s.
honestly like
Sorry,
them
you're
a bit
hitting on
better
3s,
versus
they're hitting on
Terminators
5s.
than Tactical Marines because of getting shot. If I haven't whittled them down at all, that could be 30 or more shots at me. I'm only on a 3-up save. I might be 2 wounds, but I'm on a 3-up save, and every one of these guys I lose is huge. I'd actually rather go at something that isn't going to hurt me necessarily as bad in shooting, depending on what they're armed with.
You can attach an Apothecary and a Tech
Yep.
Marine, and they'll still work because those 2 units gain all the
Yep.
special rules of the squad they join. So they'll gain Warriors of the
Ooh.
Khenetai, which means they will gain the Mind Song of Blades.
I can
Yes.
see an apothecary with this unit.
It's
You
That'd be really
absolutely put an Apothecary in this
Yeah.
unit.
No, yeah,
And you could throw a Tech Marine just to get some Strength 8 punches in with a Servo Armor and a Thunderhammer. And he'll gain weapon skill and attacks if you do that. So you have a Tech Marine now that's going to be...
to gain the weapon skill on attacks.
Let's see if I can find it super fast.
Well,
He'll go up to weapon skill 5 because I know his base isn't great. So now he's weapon skill 5, so he's actually decent with his weapon skill. And his attacks...
okay,
I think he has
once you do the
2
power.
base.
Got
He
it.
has 2 base, which will go up to 3 with the
Okay.
Thunderhammer. So, yeah. That's pretty nice. It's expensive, but
Yeah.
I mean,
if you're going to bring
I
those
would
kinds
still-
of units,
would
it's
still-
not a bad place to stick them.
Honestly, I'd still take the apothecary and the land raider with these guys. That's kind of I would say that's my go-to choice.
Yeah.
You could do both. And they'll all fit because it carries 12 now.
Oh, it does, right? It does carry 12. Tech Marine's not bulky. Wait, Tech Marine's not bulky?
Nope.
Oh, interesting.
They're in
Okay.
power armor.
All right.
Oh,
So
that's
it
right.
seems like
Okay.
we like these guys, but yeah, you're probably going to be stacking extra on to make sure they do you some good. All right. Yes.
I mean, they're only a few points more than veterans. So,
Yeah,
if
I
you're
was gonna say,
thinking
they're not
about
bad,
veterans,
Yeah.
think
I guess
about
I
these
just don't think
guys.
about veterans.
It's like what, an extra 2 points a model?
I don't know the exact cost
4
of
points
the
a
veteran.
model? Veterans are 115 base, so it's an extra 30 points on
For
the
the
unit,
ability, that's
and an
not bad.
extra 6 points a model.
Yeah.
For a power weapon, that's not bad.
Yeah, that's
2 power weapons. 2 power
Yeah.
weapons.
I mean, 1 power weapon, 2 power weapon, same thing.
all right.
He has a
So
bolt assist.
they have one more unit with multiple models in it. So they don't have anything from the exemplar units that GW put out, but they do have one unit in the legacies. So it's a fast attack choice. We'll go through that. This is the Ammitar Occult Intercession Cabal. 175 points for these guys. You get 5 of them for that cost. Are they, other than ballistic skill, are they scout basic profile? Let me get to the scouts. Yeah, how to get to the scouts.
Scout basic.
Slightly.
They do have, so they are ballistic skill 5, so they do have the extra ballistic skill. Yeah, otherwise they're scout profile. They have the Nemesis Bolter, so they get the
I think their
yes,
war
because
gear is
normally in a
little
scout
different, though.
unit's plus 10 points a guy.
So they start
they
with the
are a
sniper
lot-
base.
They're
Okay.
over twice the cost of scouts, but
Mhm.
if you wanted to run that 5-man squad with those bolters, you'd add 50 points on the scouts to be at 115. So not as bad. They have bolt pistols, fried crack grenades. Yeah. Well, so they have a feeling that they have the shroud bombs,
So
the
it's
scout armor.
60 points.
That's all standard.
Ugh.
Yep. They're light, psyker, skirmish. The light and
That's
skirmish are
the
the same. Obviously, these guys are psychers. That's the thing they do. Scout is the same, Infiltrate's the same, Move Through Cover is the same. These guys are relentless, and they have a natural shrouded 6-up, so they always at least have the 6-up. They can take the Storm Eagle. So Scouts
nice.
naturally have no dedicated transports. So these guys could take a Storm Eagle as dedicated. I wouldn't, but I don't know, Storm Eagle. You can take up to 5 more for 25 points each. Scouts are normally 8. So you're spending a lot of points for these. Yeah, 18 with a sniper. So 7 extra points for one of these guys.
So 18 with the sniper.
Every 5 models, you can swap one out to have a melta gun or a plasma gun. Doesn't really matter at all there. And they also can take the True.
Maybe
I just mean when I'm looking at like rules wise.
Maybe Melta.
Yes, that is useful.
Only because it's a BS5 Melta.
So they're relentless. That helps with what? The bolter? Got it. Okay, it's a heavy weapon. That's why I wasn't sure.
Yes, because it's heavy on the Nemesis. So they could move, shoot, assault.
Yeah.
Yes,
they have a lot less options.
So
essentially, what they're really missing in a lot of ways is sergeant options. Our sergeant has no option in this unit. And you do have one. You do have a character. The Amarats of Fate. Yeah, the Nunzio-Vox and the Melta Bombs. But it's all the other options.
He have the Nunzio-Vox and the Melta Bombs. That's the
since you're relentless, like you said, if you're not in a good spot for your Nemesis Bolter, you at least can move, and you still get the fire then hitting on 2s. And we're looking at 72-inch range, so the range isn't necessarily the issue, but the line of sight absolutely could be. They do have an ability, though, so Mind Killer. At the start of their turn, before any models are moved, you can make a psychic check, made once for each Cabal that you have, so each one of these units you have, using the leadership characters of any model in the unit that's not the independent character, so essentially of them themselves, which, unfortunately, on these guys, that's a 7/8, so absolutely could miss it. If it's passed, the models in this unit that are psychic subtype get the rending 4-up and ignores cover special rule, in addition to any other effects their weapon have for the duration of the turn. It doesn't replace or improve any other type of rending that you have. Doesn't work with templates or blast. And if you fail, no benefit, and you take a perils. Normally.
So here's what's really weird and kind of broken with the technical reading of these rules. Nemesis bolters are already rending 5-up. So this rule says this rule does nothing. Almost. It's a weird clause. It's just really weird writing there. With it does not replace or improve other versions of rending.
They shouldn't say they're replaced.
Well, they already have rending. We know what's supposed to happen. It's just
wording,
really,
it absolutely
really
does nothing because you're not allowed to replace it, and your only weapon, I guess, unless you wanted to use your bolt pistols. I'm going to assume it's on your Nemesis bolter because theoretically, otherwise, you could put it on your bolt pistol.
The plasma gun's rending on 4s now. Yeah.
Yes, but technically by the rule.
Yeah. So we know what it does. It makes you rending 4 instead of 5. And ignores cover's nice because that means no shrouded
all
saves.
Those points though for guys in 4-up armor. You have shroud bombs. You have a set shrouded 6, but is it actually worth it?
Oh god. The other unit to compare to is the Seeker Squad, which will have 1 point better armor and precision shots 4-up, but who cares? You already picking out targets anyway. They get reroll 1s to wound, which is really nice, but they don't get the move through cover or shrouded or the shroud bombs. Compared to the Seeker Squad for an extra 20 points, I'm inclined to say these guys might be worth looking at, even though they have a squishy base save, because ideally, because they're skirmish, if the entire unit's in cover, they improve that cover save by 1. So you put them in a ruin, because most tables have ruins, because we all bite hook, line, and sinker into the GW. Every table is made out of Citadel brand ruins. So they're probably going to find a ruin somewhere. And they're going to camp out in the ruin with a 4-up cover save, and then a 6-up shrouded save afterwards. So they'll be decently resilient to shooting.
Yeah.
Not great, but decent. They have a 72-inch range, so they're outranging a lot of things. So you can hide them from things like tactical squads that are ranged to Fury and pick off things on the other side of the table.
No.
It's an interesting unit. I don't know if I think this is a must include at all. It's this is fun. I had fun with this.
No, I don't feel they must include in
It's
any
a neat
way. They
idea.
are probably rules-wise, they're
Um,
closer to scouts, but comparison-wise, the Seeker's
yeah.
probably the better comparison when you look at points-wise. What?
You know what's funny? These
Yeah.
are decent Contemptor hunters.
Yeah, hitting on 2s and my
Because they're
4-ups at
rending
least
4.
puts you to your invul save.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
probably pushing like 1.5 wounds for the unit, maybe 2. That's expensive though. 2 wounds for the same
they're very
price.
pricey. They're not bad for what they do. The other units felt a lot more exciting. These guys are less, but that could also just be me. I'm not huge on scout or scout profiles. You know, I'm not saying it's bad. Like it might do well for you, but I'm just not as impressed. And Mind Killer, if I only have a 5-man squad, I'm probably never using it because on an 8, you're only a bit above 50-50. Rolling a 7 on your leadership is a 50-50. So you're only a bit above that. And if I fail it, I don't have any way to save it. So I'm losing 1 to 3 models.
Okay. Hold on. This is when you take the character that's the super duper sniper guy. And you make him the warlord with the trait where you roll 3
Okay.
dice.
If you're
drop the
doing this, I
highest
kind of
for
almost
his
feel you
unit.
have to do that. But do I want to do all that to put a guy in in a scout squad?
Yeah.
I guess I just don't like snipers that much.
If you really like snipers, you'll do it.
Yes, they're pinning.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have it
Focus
open. They're
pin,
pinning.
right?
Yes, it's a pinning weapon.
Or
Why are
no?
you making me look up rules, Dan?
No, it's still
Okay.
175 points for 5 guys.
Mm,
With an ability that if you don't have that character in there, I'm not wanting to use it because I'm gonna kill half my
For
squad.
5 wounds.
Like 40% of the time. I'm not thrilled with them. If you love scouts and snipers, cool. But if you don't love it,
yeah.
they're not gonna do
Sorry.
anything for
I
you.
gotta agree with Dave on this one.
Agreed.
Yeah,
I'm just
I gotta
happy
agree
to
with
hear
Dave
you
on
say
this
not
one.
bad.
I'm gonna
for
hard
once.
pass on
Not
these.
or not say it, I should say. Let me throw some more knots at that.
Yeah, no, this is
Yeah.
a fun fact. I think this is the first time I'm a hard pass. I'm trying to find a positive here. I really am. I'm not trying to be like a negative Nancy. I'm trying.
Pulled
'cause
it
usually
dead.
I'm a
I'm like, well, if the stars are aligned just
yeah,
right.
exactly. But I'm even with the stars aligned. I really don't
But
like.
they're not.
Okay,
Yeah.
if they were 2 wounds, then
There's
I'm
there's nothing wrong
it's
with
fine. It's
looking at a
much
unit
better.
and saying
But
that
they're
you don't
not.
like them. That's
So
okay.
it's like,
They can be a fluffy choice depending on your army.
yeah. Oh no, it's just more of like it's
I
more of
would
usually
knock off
Yeah.
20 points and go, I'll try this. If they're like 20 points cheaper, there's an argument to make.
now. I'd even
No.
what is it 175? I would go down to 145. I would knock off straight 30.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, it's because they're fast attacks, so you can't even spam them.
What else are you taking fast attack?
There's some flying stuff. Oh,
There's
no.
nothing
Special
else
stuff,
in
no.
fast attack.
Yeah.
Not for
They're
Thousand
cool.
Suns. There's a couple flyers.
No.
There's fast attack is not something that's
There's
that
nothing wrong with
contentious on
looking at a
slot.
unit and not being a fan of it. And if someone wants to run it, you're not wrong. Play the game for fluff, play it for fun, but you're probably not going to feel very good with what the unit does. No.
Oh, I don't think you will. I think, like I said, it needs to be less points or maybe more wounds, but I'm iffy on more wounds. If only because all the equivalent units are 1 wound. And bumping it to 2 wounds
and be
and
careful
such
with a
rule
unit
feels
like
like a
that
little bit
because
much.
this happened to you in the comments. Feel free to, if you're on the YouTube, feel free to comment it. But you always want to be careful of let me tell you about the game where they did this awesome stuff. That's neat. We remember that. But what you don't remember very easily, what our minds are very good at forgetting, is downsides, pain, and all those sorts of things. So what you're not going to necessarily remember is the 7 or 8 games when you used them and they killed one special weapon guy, or where essentially they in no way did what you would want them to. It's the same thing when you roll dice. People naturally, if you need, say you're looking for 6s, that's the thing you're looking for, so you're naturally going to see that more. And maybe you hit the average amount of 6s, and in the number of dice you might feel that suddenly, oh man, I got tons of them because that's what I'm focused on, or I got near none because I'm not seeing enough of them, when you actually hit, say, a perfect average. So if they've done cool things for you, absolutely tell us. I'm interested to hear the cool things that they've done. Interested in cool things of anything in the game.
Yeah, it's like, okay,
Yeah.
so yeah, we obviously people listen to us on
You
YouTube.
might hear stories from last edition if that.
What did they do last? So out of
I don't even know
Strawford-
because I never saw them.
It's funny.
To be fair, last edition, Thousand Suns was almost entire. Like I'm playing Guard of the Crimson.
All right.
And you go,
Let's move
That
on
sounds
from
right.
these ho-hum boys. We have 2 things left. We have 2 characters. They
Sadly,
might show
too.
up at some point.
I'm
It's
still
all
miffed
based on
they don't have the
who's got
third
models
dude.
or who has
I'm still
planned
kind of
models.
miffed, but it's fine.
Does anyone in particular
That'd be
want to
cool.
take
I would
one or
lo- I would
the
love
other?
to
What do
see
people
that.
want to have?
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Go for it. Do it right now.
I'll take Ahriman, honestly. Ahriman pretty cool. Yeah. So Ahzek Ahriman, 185 points. That's interesting. I thought he'd be actually a little bit more expensive, huh? So he looks standard Praetor. No.
He's somewhat between
Hold
because the
on.
Praetor is weapon
Standard.
skill
Is
6.
he one of
He's
those
weapon
weird
skill
Praetor
5.
Centurions? Let me see here. Yeah, he's the weird
Yeah,
in
that's the
between
only
ones.
one. All the rest
Okay,
of it
yeah.
is a
So he's the
standard
weird
Praetor
in between
stat
ones.
line
That's fine.
weapon skill.
in Artificer.
Yeah, it's. Oh, okay, good. All right. So he's infantry, character psyker unique, obviously. He's got a mastercrafted S6 bolt pistol. Who cares? He's got a Corvidian scepter. That sounds actually pretty cool. Artificier armor, iron halo, frag and crack grenades. He has Master of the Legion, independent character, relentless, adamantine will 3+. Archmagister of the Corvidae, traitor, and pattern of fates, which is his warlord trait. If an army's warlord has this trait, then once all models have been deployed into the battlefield, including any infiltrated units after any units have been redeployed during the scout special rule, but before the first turn has begun, the controlling player may select 3 friendly units and, oh yes, I love it, and either redeploy them to any other position within the controlling player's deployment zone, or remove them from the battlefield and place them into reserve. In addition, you get an additional reaction in any one phase once per turn, as long as you're not dead.
Yeah, you get
but
one
the phase
extra
in which the additional
reaction
reaction is made does not need to
per
be declared in
turn.
advance. Oh,
Total
okay, that's
turn,
cool.
yeah.
Oh, so yeah, you don't need to declare in advance.
He knows what you need,
Exactly.
and he's been planned accordingly.
So before I continue, I do want to point out this warlord trait. I'll go on, and I'm going to come back to the warlord trait and why it's amazing. The Corvidian scepter. It's a force weapon, obviously. Strength +1, AP 2,
Force lets you
melee,
double
reach 1,
your strength.
force, mastercrafted. Force. Yeah, and so it's double then +1, so it becomes what, strength 9?
There is an argument between strength 9 and strength 10.
Why?
In either case.
I'll pause here. Why? How is that?
So my reading is that force, when it says doubles the strength of the attack, it's the attack after modifier. Others read it as you double the strength, and then you add the +1.
This is the old Grey Knight hammer hand joke from 5th edition.
It's that debate. Because it says attack specifically, and there's so many shooting attacks with this rule,
yeah,
I truly in my heart believe it should be after the mods. But lots of people strongly believe otherwise because that would be against everything else GW has written in the last 8 years.
It's more of GW has universalized it to be that.
Well,
it's because GW can't write things
because
in the
there
English
is a spot
language.
in the book that tells you,
so
you multiply then add, but it's the wording they put on this that should you add and then multiply.
Yes, because it says.
Yeah, you're not doubling.
Right, because it's the attack that is doubled, not the strength of the user that's doubled.
Yeah.
Like if a power fist, you double the strength, and then you're adding 1 for some other nonsense. This is the attack's strength is doubled.
Right.
So that's the big debate.
Let's see what this.
In either case, you are now doing instant death against power armor at initiative.
Yep.
Sorry, against Space Marines at initiative 6.
Yes, which is nice. Let me see here. He gains the minor arcana Corvidae, and he can choose divination and thaumaturgy disciplines from the core discipline list at no additional point cost, but may not select any other minor arcana or psychic disciplines. So he has divination, thaumaturgy, and the Corvidae minor arcana. So let's back up a little bit because I did want to mention. Not many people realize, and this is me talking now from a tournament standpoint, which might make people throw something at the screen, especially since we're talking about 30K, but bear with me for a second. In tournament play, the ability to redeploy your army is probably one of the most powerful abilities any army has, especially when it's after scout and everything and before the first turn is done. Especially when, Steve will probably have to look this up. Sorry, Steve. When it says remove them from the battlefield and place them in reserve, let's say that thing has outflank assault. Can you then put in an outflank assault?
He has to look it up. That's the thing. Saying something like that means we actually have to look.
Steve. Sorry, guys.
Yeah. Talk about other stuff.
Oh, okay.
I gotta think. Yeah.
Or
I
deep
was gonna
assault.
look up those discipline.
Yeah.
I was actually looking up disciplines to see what kinds of spells he gets access to with those 2 disciplines.
Well, I wanted to start with this. So, just the redeploy, in my opinion, is a very powerful warlord trait, exceptionally so. And it's not D3 either, which is usually the case in 40k. It's just straight 3, which is amazing. For those who don't know, by the way, people who are new, obviously we do this sometimes for the new people. This does include the dedicated transport. So, like if they're inside, let's say, the Land Raider, you don't say, all right, I'm moving the Land Raider, then the troops inside. No. It's you're moving the Land Raider. That's the friendly unit. So yeah, redeploy, extremely powerful. And I love the fact that he gets an additional reaction in one phase, once per turn, and you don't need to declare ahead of time what it is. That's really awesome. That's really powerful. While Steve keeps looking at the psychic powers and/or when I ask the question, Corvidian Scepter, amazing weapon, initiative 6, can be strength 9, and it's mastercrafted, so you get to reroll a hit.
Which kind of makes up for the lack of weapon skill.
But that Warlord trait is up there on my list of wow.
If I look up, say, Deep Strike Assault, just
I think I have the second.
Before the start of game turn 1, when a unit's placed into reserve, a player may choose to assign it 1 or more of the units to Deep Strike Reserve. So, the way I see this,
I think you would attach them to an existing assault.
I was actually saying you're removing them, putting them to reserves.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Okay.
It's still before, when you're placing units into reserve, you get to choose. You're placing these guys into reserve. I don't see why you wouldn't get to choose, even if you don't already have one. Oh, yeah. You can put them into it, yes.
You definitely get to choose.
Yes.
But if you do have one, you don't get to splinter to a new one. If you have a deep strike already, you have to be part of that.
Arguing. Yeah, no, so that's even stupider level powerful. Normally in 40k, when this is done, like the redeploy, and you can put back in reserve, you're not allowed to like take it back off the board and deep strike it. You have to kind of put it as in reserves. This is straight up. You can if it has outflank assault. Oh, you know what? Now they're outflanking assault. That's.
But you can't take them from reserves to the table or reserves to reserves.
No, that you cannot do now.
That is something to note.
But still an exceptionally powerful ability. Like that is a nice warlord. Enough to say I would want him to be my warlord. Yeah. If you want me to tell if you're still, I have the psychic powers in front of me.
So there's a healing one. You cast it on a unit within 12 inches. Each model in that unit that has missing wounds could heal 1 on a 5-up. That's cool. It is. Let's see this one. This one is. There's an anti-demon one that's strength 4, but always wounds demons on 2. That's cool. It's actually AP3 Flamer.
Divination, cool. Which can give precision shots, precision strikes.
We got
Divination.
Or if you make the test on 5s.
Shooting,
on 6s, okay. Or bump it to 5s. That could be interesting.
It is interesting. He's a good character. 185 points, bargain bin character. Pretty damn good.
He could snipe people out with a special little magic bullet.
Yeah.
Sniper guy.
He's what we would like to call.
He can shoot this around corners. That's cool.
Yeah. He's a force multiplier. He's literally a force multiplier, and he's a good force multiplier at that. He's not like Marduk,
and
who you throw in the middle of the battlefield and beat the crap out of people.
He's only 185 points. Holy shit.
Yeah. He's cheap.
I think part of his greatness is also coming from his weapon skill.
He's good.
Because he will struggle against the dedicated combat characters.
5 attacks with a reroll, he just has to get
true, if you put him at the 9. That's true,
he's swinging first.
Okay, assuming you get the force off, which you should. He's only to ship 10.
He just has to get one of them through.
Right. No, I do like him. He is good and he is pretty cheap.
Yeah, and if you're running with characters, solid pick. It's a
Oh, you
shame
never
he
got one?
only has the
Shame.
plastic model. I think he deserved the forge-rolled resin treatment, but his plastic model's not bad. It's been the base of many great conversions, and it makes me a little sad to see this is the only quote-unquote Force Lance
All right,
that the
that
Thousand Sons are
leaves
going to be
us
rocking.
with one character left, Magistus Amon. Steve, do you want to talk about him, or do you want me to? All right. Why don't you talk about him, and then I'll start the final thoughts when we get to him.
I'm fine either way. Okay. All right. So Magistus Amon, for the same price as a Mr.
Yeah,
Ahriman,
full Praetor
you
stat
can
line.
get what is this? Ahriman with one better weapon skill. Yep,
Yeah.
full Praetor stat. Oh, they're only 6. I keep thinking they're 7 for some reason. Yes, full Praetor stat line. You get an Archaeotech pistol. Nice. You get the Reliquary of Dust and the Armor of Shades, which are just 2 fancy things he gets. An Iron Halo, so he's got a nice 4-up. Invulnerable save, frag and crack grenades, pretty standard. Whoa, he's a Psyker. Who would have guessed? Thousand Sun, Master of the Legion, independent character, relentless, Master of Dust, which is another rule of his. He gets Infiltrate. He's locked into traitors and has a Warlord trait, Lord of the Hidden Path. Lord of the Hidden Paths. If your Army Warlord has this trait, then all units with Infiltrate and Scout gain Shrouded 5-up. Special rules for the duration of the first 2 game turns. In
So we
addition,
were
you get an
talking
extra
about
reaction in the
those.
movement phase.
What is it? The
So,
Intercession Cabal. I guess this guy wants them.
mhm.
I don't think you still take them, but if you're in for a
He
penny, in
probably
for a
gets along
pound, take
pretty
this
damn
guy
well
if
with
you
them,
actually
yeah.
want to take those units. Yeah.
I mean, it's an extra point in their favor, yeah. This is
Yep.
really good on what else infiltrates and scouts. Recon squads, seeker squads, scout squads.
They're probably
I
in
feel
the
like I'm
other book as
forgetting
I keep
one that's
switching
like
back and
a thing
forth.
you don't normally think of as being infiltrator or scout.
Someone's
Huh, not as much. Outriders, if you like your bikes, they could have 5-up shrouded because they get scout.
no. His warlord trait is
Not
very
that much
dependent
get
on what
scout
you
though.
bring, and what you're bringing for it is very, very selective.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But for 2 turn,
Yep.
you basically get to evade on everything and still get to return fire after. So we have the Armor of Shades. Gives you a 2-up armor save. Oh my god, 2-up invulnerable nuts. 2-up armor save. If he has moved or within area terrain, he gets shrouded 4-up. So you can't see. He carries the Reliquary of Dust. It's a force weapon. Strength user, AP 2. Melee, poisoned 4-up, reaping blow 1, master crafted. And can also be used for a shooting attack with a 6-inch range, strength of 1, no AP, assault 2d6, poison 4-up, concussive 3, landing 6-up.
Is it
You can do
is
that
it literally a
once per
thing full of
battle.
dust? Oh yes, slain Psycho Noon and Mind Parasite. So yeah, he hits you with
Yes,
pocket
he
sand.
has. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Concussive 3 is hilarious if you get that to work. Poison 4-up means you have decent odds of actually landing it with 2d6 attack. Okay, that's kind of neat. That's kind of neat. I like it. I like the pocket sand. I like pocket sand. And then he has divination and telepathy. We went through divination earlier. You have the sniper spell. You get to hand out the precision shot 6.
Yeah, telepathy is the good one.
Okay, that's neat. And then telepathy. Oh, telepathy. Telepathy is probably the one psychic school I have actually seen in the 4 games I played against psychers, because they get to turn off reactions and do pitting checks with a penalty of between 0 and 6. How do you determine that number? Well, you see, you do a psychic test, you pass it, then you get a shooting attack with 6 shots. Every successful hit you score, and of course, you're hitting on 2s.
Yep.
It's a penalty of -1 to the leadership for the pinning check. You could shut down 2 units for a turn with telepathy. It's insane. So, yeah, that's great.
No. And his
But he does
divination
not get minor arcana.
isn't as useful. Okay, it absolutely can be useful, but I see this guy as wanting scout or scout type units, which I guess if you didn't want to have to take Nemesis bolters, but that's kind of the point of Scout and Scout style units, the ones that can, Seekers and all. To me, that's kind of what you take on them. But I guess Divination is a way to get away cheaper. You don't have to take those because I can at least give you the 5-up that your Nemesis had, just shorter ranges. And potentially more shots. I mean, yeah, it won't rend, but yeah.
Honestly, I would want to put the divination spell on just a big beefy tactical squad because you're rolling so many
Yeah,
dice.
if
You can
you're
just
taking that
brute
guy,
force
that's
your
where you're
way
going to put it.
through opposing sergeants. That's my thoughts anyway.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be annoying, but
Oh god, that dice roll.
Ahriman is obviously the bigger name in terms of, at least from a lore perspective, also counting because he's still around in 40k and all that kind of stuff. He's got a model. He leads their army. Books about him, all of that. So I just kind of like him more. Although this guy's he is still pretty good. You know, his weapon at least being poison 4-up means I'm at least not wounding on worse than a 4, and it is AP2. He has Reaping Blow, so he'll get some extra attacks. He's not bad in any way, but what he does and like the things of what he helps, I'm not a big fan of. Like if I took him, I definitely wouldn't make him my Warlord because I'm not taking that many Scout style items or units. If I had a bunch of Scouts, you know what? If you're going to take Recon Force, if that's the one you have, this guy's a great leader for it. I don't know how well it plays into your army though, because your leaderships are a little bit rough.
I mean, Seekers become non-compulsory troop. Of those units, the only line one is recon squads. That's fine because they just take Nemesis bolters and hide in the back. Seekers as non-compulsory troops. Okay, that frees up the slots for the special snipers that Thousand Suns get.
Yeah.
This guy makes Legion Recon
If that's the
Company
kind of thing you run and the kind of thing you like, go for it. It's just it doesn't fit what I like to do.
If you want to play Alpha Legion without playing Alpha Legion,
I can see that. Legion. Yes.
Yeah, he's good. He plays into a theme, but it's a very narrow theme. I would not say, oh yes, everyone. If take him. He does cool stuff.
He looks
that Warlord trait's really nice if you have that specific army build.
He looks cool.
Yeah, like Armon.
You have to really like him to use him.
Listen, if worst comes to worst,
the model's okay.
Just buy the model because it looks cool honestly. And use it as a Praetor or something.
But he's all right. Armon, you make a list, you could throw Armon in and feel pretty good about it. You can't throw this guy into a list that he's not designed for. Assuming he's your Warlord, I mean, if you do someone else, that's fine. But honestly, the problem for me is the Bearhead.
I feel like you're paying for the Warlord trait with him. Oh no, if you're taking him as the Warlord, though, then you don't get the one that protects that sniper squad.
What he wants to take, he can do fine. Cool. The units he wants to take, I think, at least mine, maybe I'll at least timestamp this to be related to final thoughts because I think this is starting into sort of final thoughts territory for these guys. When I look at this Legion, one, I do like them a lot. I think they're a very good Legion. I think it'd be very strong. I think Dice Fiat is going to be a potential issue. If you are the type of player who likes predictability and likes when I can plan this out, and if I position well and I do this well, things will go my way. I think you could absolutely, have bad feels or feel bads from this Legion because your whole thing is, okay, your guys are psychers. You have some little minor powers and maybe full-on powers. You have all these sort of powers, and all these powers are dice rolls. And on some units, they're pretty certain. On your Praetors, on guys leadership 10, it's pretty certain. You can fail. Obviously, you can fail. And since we play with a game that often is night fighting for at least a turn, let's say 2, let's assume you don't luck out perfect, you're probably still going to make it there. Your guys who are on leadership 9, still not too bad because you go down to an 8. It's not terrible, but now it starts getting a little dicey. But your standard units, the average unit is like an 8. I'm at -1, let's say, in the beginning. Now I'm going to 7s. Now half the time, I could be perils-ing on myself. So now I'm going to start losing wounds. Or I'm going to start losing models. I feel that they can do well, and they do a lot of very cool things. And I think their units are very neat. I think their Terminators are very cool. Their Special Contemptor is great. But if you're, it's a weird double-edged sword almost. If you rely too much on their powers in the wrong way, I think you can absolutely be almost to an extent giving the game to your opponent because, or if you roll poorly, because you're killing your own units and not getting essentially what your special rule is, where everyone else is having theirs. I so there's still some legions we haven't talked about. I think I'm pretty comfortable with most of their special stuff. Is there any other legion that you guys can think of where you might not get your rules? And not like, oh, because you didn't take the special type of unit. Oh, it's Imperial Fist, you didn't take anyone with a bolter. You're taking guys with bolters. But like here, there's a chance you literally just don't have it because like you roll bad. You don't roll well, you don't get your special rule. And you actually slowly start destroying your army. And I do like them. I think they are cool. I do like the look of their armor in 30K. But if you're the type who wants good consistency, I would caution going with these guys. Because like I said, I've played enough games and rolled enough psychic tests, and on a 9, I failed it multiple times. I've made more than I failed, but I failed enough, and it's not a good feeling when you do. And if I'm rolling on all tons of units, and all of them have the potential to fail, or if I go against the wrong army and they can reduce my leadership in various ways or something like that, it might not be a very fun experience. So just make sure you're the right headset for this. Okay.
Counterpoint.
It goes perfect with starter box.
Counterpoint. It goes really well with the starter box. This is one of the few. Yeah, like I said, this is one of the. It's not the few times, but sometimes we'll like say when we talk about like the white scars. This one goes like really well with the starter box because you take your normal Marines,
the Terminators,
but now they're Psychers.
I mean, especially when you're starting out.
There is that.
Call them whatever you want. If you want to play Sekhmet Terminators off of those, just call them those. Do it so you can see what you think of them while you either wait for the guys to come in stock or to buy them or whatever. Or if you want to convert them up, put a few extra bits on them. Like, have fun with it. And they have a special Contemptor. You got a Contemptor in the box. So, like, it fits the box perfectly. But even there, with all those, the normal Marine bodies, I don't really want to be taking these tests on them. Because I'm going to be losing a lot of Marines when I fail, depending on night fighting or not. Maybe almost 50% of the time. Or reasonably close to it. Yeah. Okay. So I'm taking that. It's a little better.
Take Nuncio Vox is what you're saying?
Yeah. And I'm still only rolling on an 8 for some of those squads.
10
That's
points
still
extra
not
per
great.
squad, though.
60% of the time works every time kind of thing here. So it's not that it's bad. And I absolutely like them. And like I said, if I liked their Contemptor more, they very well might have been the Legion I played. But I think it is something to consider. If you are not the person who is willing to have your die rolls kind of determine parts of the game for you, don't choose these guys. Any other thoughts currently? I don't know if anyone has a different thought. Okay.
No. A little side note on
The Psychics was insane,
in
right?
1.0, they were kind of oppressive. Even with Sisters of and this is, by the way, even with me taking Sisters of Silence, it was still like my Sisters of Silence helped. It didn't stop it. It helped. You know what I mean? So they were somewhat oppressive as hell in 1.0. And I'm kind of glad to see that they're more normalized.
They're dependent
still
on
good.
rolls.
They're not a bad Legion. Don't take that as they're a shit Legion. But I'm glad that they're much more. Well, they were dependent on rolls in 1.0 as well.
They were dependent on worse than rolls. They were dependent on pre-game rolls that defined your entire game last edition. At least this edition, you know what psychic powers you got.
Exactly. But the psychic powers aren't,
But the swing is like you don't swing as low as before. You don't swing as high as before.
Exactly. It's a nice middle. I know you were talking about like, if you want consistency. The consistency here, Dave, is not, I made my psychic power. I didn't make my psychic power. The consistency here is I know
what my fucking psychic powers
are. And I think that's what makes this army a little bit better to play. Because last edition, I could say Biomancy, and I can get 1 of 6 powers. And that was from each one of my tactical
So I agree.
units.
There
So I could
is
have
more consistency than, say,
1 of
in,
each psychic
in
power
1.0.
on 6 tactical units.
But looking
if I
at it
rolled
solely
like
from a
that.
2.0, because that's the world we live in now, the
Yeah.
army has a lot of inconsistency. There, compared to 1.0, the floor has moved up, the ceiling has moved down.
Yes, exactly.
But when I
yeah.
compare it to other 2.0s, I feel that the floor and
Yes.
ceiling spread out. Because if I get my rolls and I get my powers, the powers can absolutely a potential of always getting a precision when I
Yes.
want it on certain units. Obviously, not every unit have it, is huge. Getting extra move is huge. All these things are huge, but I get nothing if I don't roll well on those dice, and I could actually be harming my own unit. So I think the swing of them is much bigger. You know, you're more likely on the better end of it. But let's face it, we've all played games where the dice are just not with you, and you miss a bunch of rolls. All right, does that do it for the Thousand Suns? And that'll do it for us tonight. So for the next episode, we're going back and forth between Legions and Rites of War. What's probably going to follow this is the Dark Angel Rites of War, potentially a few others. I have a few others either done or about to be done. And then we are going to be getting back to the Sons of Horus as our next Legion to review. So expect all of that within about the next week or so. As always, I do want to thank anyone and everyone who does listen. Remember, if you have any thoughts, obviously you can leave comments on the YouTube. I do try to keep up with them, although I know I'm rather behind with the start of the school year and all. It just kept me a little bit too busy to really be able to dive into those much. But hopefully my co-hosts have been looking through it as well. Otherwise, you can always reach out to us through email, trainkickersnj@gmail.com. We do have a few other things in the works. We did record the battle report, but honestly, it's bad, so I'm not going to put that out. But it's taught us a few things, so we're going to be looking to do some improvements before we start putting out that kind of content to you guys. But we have multiple things that we're working on. As always, if you are enjoying our content, likes and subscribes, all those sorts of things really do help us out. Otherwise, on behalf of everyone here at the show, have some good hobbying and some great gaming.